All right. I'd like to welcome everybody out here this evening, and go ahead and call this annual budget hearing to order. We do have a full quorum present. We have Trustee Bustos, Trustee Clayton, and myself here, and we also have Trustees Corker and Trustees Freund participating with us via conference call. We have Dr. Holmes, our superintendent, Ms. Amanda LaChance, our board clerk, here present with us, as well as our business manager, Mr. Mike Chatterton, and our assistant superintendent, Mr. John Blackman. And if you would, please stand with me and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We'll go ahead and move forward with the public comment section regarding the annual budget hearing. And I do have a list of those. We'll go in the order that they were received. And just as a reminder, please make sure your comments are respectful and directed to the board. And we'll go ahead and start with Mr. Johnny Galgano.
He's on his way. Can he step in and apologize?
Okay. Next up, Ms. Darlene Dyer.
I'm Darlene Dyer, Zone 3. Heretofore, there has been discussion concerning the budgeting of the IB-MYP program our district began many years ago and the support for its demise. As a former teacher in this district, I and all my colleagues were sent to trainings in various parts of the U.S. and also participated in several hours of on-site trainings. The English department, which I co-chaired, was one of the first to effectively embrace and utilize the rudiments and rigor of IB. To such extent, we modeled our 11th and 12th grade curriculum units to support what we implemented in 9th and 10th grades. However, there were serious problems for others. Specific IB language used in formal planning, let alone the changing terminology from one training to another. Templated and formulaic curriculum units, interpreting the limited scoring, and the vagueness of rubrics and ultimate grading. Thus, some teachers found they could not adapt to so regimented an outcome which diffused creative approaches. Frequently, MYP was found to negatively impact student growth, as students could only show growth in 4 criteria, no more. And students themselves had trouble with the academic language and subjective wording used within the rubrics they needed to follow in order to accomplish a learning task. Students who struggled with English as a second language especially. Even parents were confused by the grading system. My point is really that after the hours and hours of meetings and trainings and in-services over the past 7 or 8 years, if your teachers are unable to efficaciously put this methodology into practice, then why continue? The program was not a failure. Teachers learned many things from the new demands of practice. As a member of the Secondary Education Task Force for the district, I am part of one of 2 very large committees comprised of teachers, parents, counselors, and administrators currently at work designing meaningful and rigorous curricula for the high school and middle school. And these committees have, in fact, maintained the fruits of IB. In determining a purposeful curriculum based on state requirements and community input, the required IB class of global perspectives and the extended foreign language provision have been incorporated into new high school graduation requirements. Without the added cost of IB but maintaining the same rigor, the middle school has included pre-AP advanced classes as well as a foreign language program. Since previous BCSD teacher trainings in project-based learning enhanced their approaches so teachers could offer student success with rigorous IB projects, students will still be able to partake in such projects. PBLs are not an added course. While the IB-MYP program has not been without success for many teachers and students, suffice it to say that overall it has not been the best fit for our educators and our learners. To that end, let's add lessons learned. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next up, Dr. Jane Walther.
Jane Walther, 221 South River Street in Haley. I've worked for the Blaine County School District now for 6 years, and I have more than 20 years of teaching and administrative experience, and I'm also a doctor of education. Last week, I sent out an email to board members that included some of the many benefits of the IB program. Tonight, I want to comment on some of the things on the other side of the issue. At budget meetings earlier in the school year, people were told to place sticky dots on posters. Green dots for items considered sacred, blue dots for items that should be looked at, and as we were told, not necessarily done away with, but revisited and discussed. Sure, IB received a lot of blue dots, but in terms of revisiting and discussing the program, I don't know that that actually took place. Instead, a survey came out asking people to rank all of these unrelated things like arts and project-based learning and even the IB coordinator. A committee was formed to develop a new academic framework in place of IB. I've wondered if this is really a budget issue, or maybe it's just easier to drop the program under the guise of funding than it is to get teachers to reflect on and change their current practices in order to teach students in the 21st century. So I have some questions that I would just like you to please consider as you vote on the budget and whether or not to continue IB in this district. The first is, can you honestly say that you believe that sticky dots are real data and that we should be using these sticky dots to be making life-altering decisions? Can you say in good conscience that a process in which many people attended multiple meetings and voted multiple times and where a mob mentality broke out is a fair and accurate way to gather information? And finally, do you really think it's possible that this secondary framework committee, made up of a lot of the teachers unwilling and or incapable of implementing IB, will ever come anywhere as close to creating a framework as good or as rigorous as the IB Middle Years program, which is based on information and research from around the world and developed by some of the greatest minds in education? I believe that we have a moral and personal obligation to our students to provide the highest quality education that we can, even if that requires difficult changes from some teachers. So let's not get caught up in the crossfire of teachers, administrators, budgets, and sticky dots. Instead, let's do what's best for our kids. That means keeping the IB program, improving our instruction, and helping students to be successful in a new age. They deserve it, and they're counting on us for it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next up, Pamela Plowman.
Pamela Plowman, 111 East Myrtle Street in Haley. Regarding the budget, I just wanted to put out here that only in the last few weeks has the public really discovered that the benefits for administrators are way more than teachers. So basically, I think that we really need to look at how much more it is because the benefits in total are, I think, like $12 million. So how much of excess benefits that the teachers are not getting but the administrators are getting, what does that come to? I wrote an email to Mike asking that he'd have that data for us tonight. So I hope that you will discuss that as part of this budget discussion because I think that might be the elephant in the room on our enormous budget, and it's really important to take a look at. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next up, Nora Kiefer.
Hello, members of the board. Thank you. My name is Nora Kiefer. I live at 613 South Main, Bellevue. I attended Blaine County Schools until 1997, where I realized my needs were not being met. I now have an incoming 7th grader. Tonight, I am here to represent Blaine County School District for Students First. 11 days ago, BCSD Students First launched an online petition asking Blaine County School District trustees to prioritize students in the new district budget. Since then, more than 300 parents, teachers, and community members have signed the petition, while many others want to but are afraid to do so. Our community is sending a loud message as to what we want for our public education system. Here is this message. As Blaine County School District parents, teachers, and taxpayers, we believe our school district's budget should prioritize students and reflect our community's values. In April 2006, Blaine County School District administrators submitted a proposed budget for the 2016-17 fiscal year that includes a $1.3 million reduction in spending. Unfortunately, BCSD students, especially those in greatest need, are taking the brunt of these cuts. The district's proposed 10% reduction in all department budgets, plus elimination of the International Baccalaureate program, coordinators, Latino and special education parent liaisons, after-school and summer school programs, mountain ride bus passes, playground equipment funding, driver's education, and more will directly impact students' learning and their success. During BCSD's 2015 financial plan listening tour, parents, teachers, and community members overwhelmingly asked the district to reconsider spending on administrative staff and the communications department. Later, district administrators conducted a community survey designed to solicit answers in support of administrative staff and communications. Now they are using this flawed survey to avoid making additional cuts in these areas. In recent years, BCSD has continued to add administrative staff with hefty compensation packages. Current salaries range from $87,000 to $173,880,000, with 12 out of 22 administrators earning more than six figures. In addition to huge retirement and 401A contributions, administrators receive plush annual benefits, including medical, dental, and vision insurance for their entire families, life, disability insurance, cell phones, and in some cases paid vacation and company cars that BCSD teachers do not receive. As reported in the Express, BCSD teachers on average receive salaries about 61% higher than Idaho teachers, while district administrators earn 72 to 151% more than their statewide.
Thank you for your comment.
I'm sorry, I was under the impression I was presenting for a group.
Do we have the 10 people listed as members of that group?
Well, are you a group, or, I mean, there's more than 10 people that signed the petition. How many people are part of the group?
I am representing all the signers of the petition.
Is that considered a group?
We'll consider.
Sure.
No one else from the group can speak?
Yeah.
Is that agreeable?
If
Yeah.
no one else from the group can speak.
May I continue?
You may continue.
Wonderful. Thank you. We believe that Blaine County School District staff should be compensated more than their state averages. However, the disparity between administration and teacher compensation is in the direct contrast to where Blaine County taxpayers have requested that money to be used in the classrooms. Most districts our size do not employ both a superintendent and an assistant superintendent. Likewise, in comparable districts, a communications department with 2 full-time employees is almost unheard of. We agree that the communications are important, but the job could be done at a fraction of the cost. The communications budget is simply a luxury our district can no longer afford. As many in our community struggle to make ends meet, and with many important programs infecting kids and on the chopping block, we ask you trustees to reduce spending on administrative staff and communications and keep the programs in position that matter most to the kids in the community. We understand that reducing salary benefits is a painful move, but in tough economic times, we all must make sacrifices. Bringing the benefits and salaries in line with teachers and significantly reducing communications department budget would allow us to maintain valuable education department programs and staff positions. Our community depends on quality education to prove effective and productive members of society. Programs and staff possessions directly benefiting students must always be a top priority. Please listen to your constituents and reject the administration's proposed budget. While we applaud the proposed modifications submitted by Superintendent and Business Manager Mike Chatterton in a memo, we remain deeply concerned about other educational programs and staff positions still slated for elimination, including the baccalaureate program, after-school, summer school programs, driver's education, equipment funding, paraprofessionals, and more. We understand some teachers have spoken out against the baccalaureate program, saying it's too difficult to implement. We believe a thorough review should be done before the future is decided. While it may seem like we are coming to you with our concerns in the 11th hour, parents, teachers, community members voiced them many during last fall's financial plan listening tour. When district administration chose to ignore us and created a budget that reflects their own values, not ours, a small group decided to write a letter. That letter has been so well received that now hundreds of people have signed it in an attempt to redirect our school and bring them back to a place that serves students in the highest and best way. So today, we, the people of Blaine County, stand before you and ask to reject the proposed budget as it currently stands. Please keep all educational programs and staff positions in place until the district has made further cuts in the area of communications and administrative staff, as was clearly asked during Blaine County School District's information gathering last year. While this might mean the budget does not balance for this fiscal year, but significant savings can be made in the district's administration. Our hope is that you, the school board, as representatives of our community, will listen and insist on a budget that prioritizes students and looks to our community's values. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Next up is Mr. Andrew Parnes.
I just want to provide copies of a letter that I wrote to you, so you have it, board members, and I can make it available to the other board members when they're here. My name is Andrew Parnes. I live at 317 Starweather Drive in the county. I put before you a letter that I sent to you via email on April 26th regarding the contracts. I never got a response to that until on June 9th I opened up the agenda and saw a letter that was sent from an attorney back to Mr. Blackman on May 13th. And I'd like to just address some of the things that the attorney that apparently was consulted and I agree on, and some things that I think are available to be talked about. So I sent a letter when I heard that there was a discussion of property rights and that you had to extend the contracts for all administrators because they had a property right in their salary and benefits back in April. And I wrote, and I went to a meeting shortly thereafter, and I asked the superintendent about that, and she said, again in an open meeting at Ketchum Library, that they were property rights and they could not be adjusted, and therefore that was proper for the board to do that. The letter that I got back, or that was sent and put into the agenda, I had only seen it last week, talks about the fact that I referenced renewable contracts. And I was wrong about that the administrators are not on renewable contracts. And in fact, when I sent the letter, I said, I'm not an expert in education law, and I'm not. But I know something about contract rights and property rights, and there's a significant difference. And the attorney who wrote back to you indicated that there were contract rights that give people, that administrators can't be changed during the term of the contract. And I agree with that. There were, and in fact, there were 4 administrators who had 2-year contracts as of April. They could not be adjusted because they didn't change until June of 2017. But all the other administrators' contracts were up at 1 year on June 30th. And those administrative contracts were not property rights. They could have been discussed. They should have been discussed as part of the budget. You chose not to do that. I think that was a mistake. Finally, let me just say a personal comment here. In the letter on page 2, which is I think at 57 or 58 of your packet, there's a reference to the fact that my wife is a school teacher here. And essentially I would be arguing that my wife should also receive a reduction in her benefits. Now, I don't know how the attorney knew that my wife was a teacher in the school district unless somebody from the administration told her. I was at a meeting last week, or a couple of weeks ago, with Mr. Clayton, and there was talk about intimidation. That is the kind of intimidation
Thank you for your
that
comment.
concerns us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next up, Penny Thayer. Are you representing the students first?
I'm representing myself.
Okay.
My name is Penny Thayer. I live on Buckhorn Drive here in Haley. I'm basically going to read a letter to you guys. Dear trustees, I support you in not approving the current proposed budget for 2016-17 for many reasons. Here are just a few reasons that I would really like you to consider. My first concern is the International Baccalaureate Program. The International Baccalaureate Program has been a great benefit to the students of Wood River Middle School and Wood River High School. I have seen the bar raised and the students striving to meet the increase in rigor, which has had a tremendous impact on the quality of their education they receive here in Blaine County. If we do not continue the funding for the IB coordinator this year in the budget, we will be effectively withdrawing from the IB program, and it will no longer have the accountability that we so need. Also, we will not be listed, and I think this is actually an important point. We will not be listed on our student profile as an IB school, which is a great boost during the application process to our students seeking to attend a competitive university. IB has an excellent reputation, and it conveys the message to admission counselors that our students have taken rigorous courses and are prepared to meet the needs that their institution of higher learning is going to require of them. If we decide to re-enter into the IB program at a future date, after we decline from it, there are significant financial costs. Becoming an IB school is an expensive process, and I believe strongly that we have made an investment in our kids, and we should definitely continue to support this program. My second concern is the cost of administration in our school district. I ask that you please thoughtfully reconsider the benefits provided to district administrators. These salaries and benefits have clearly reached a point that the public, as well as others who work for the school, do not support. This discussion should be part of this year's budget, not be put off until next fall. All funds available should be looked at and used in the best interest of our students. My third concern is the communications department. The information produced by this department could be handled by building administrators, administrative assistants, or others already currently working in our schools. We are a public school, not a private school that needs to be sold to our patrons. Please stop this spending in this area, as it does not directly impact the students' learning. The minimal reduction in the communications department's excessive budget is not enough. There must be deeper reduction or elimination here. My final point tonight is the voices that are silenced. The fact that I personally have received phone calls from Blaine County School District employees saying things like, "I could be fired for telling you this," or, "Well, off the record," if we can talk off the record, well, this makes it abundantly clear that people do not feel comfortable expressing their professional opinions. We have highly qualified teachers and staff whose voices are not being heard.
Thank you for your comment.
I appreciate you taking the time
Thank you for your
to
comment.
consider this tonight. Thank you.
And the last one that I have for the budget portion is Mr. Johnny Galgano. I think I saw him come in.
I understand that you called me earlier, Sean. Thanks for the redirect. Johnny Galgano, 170 Cloverly Lane, Haley, Idaho. Many thanks, as always, for your time and service on the board. With regard to the current cuts in the budget, all of these items directly impact the most important part of the school district, the students. We're cutting stuff basically without looking at all of the ways to save money. There are a number of choices to save funds on this $1.3 million budget without reducing the programs you have outlined. Let's reduce the amount of funds the Blaine County School District pays into Percy for all administrators that is consistent with the other BCSD employees. Let's get parity amongst all employees. Let's remove the life insurance policies from the administrators. If they wish to have the benefit, let them pay for it. Remove the payment of administrators' family members' health insurance, medical, dental, etc. Again, six-figure salaries can afford to pay their own way. The 401k contributions that only administrator gets. Again, parity. Let's have all of the Blaine County School District personnel receive the same benefits. I've been paid at a high level because I was the master. The third mate got paid less, but we shared the same benefits. We received the same medical, the same health benefits. Okay? That's the parity part. I get the salary part. Again, I think it's out of line in terms of what the administrators get and what the teachers get. But again, we've gone down that road, and it seems as though there's no way you're going to claw your way back. Okay, the communications department. When I worked at the high school, I managed the web page, just like all of the other schools had someone manage their web page. Okay, we started this communications project with someone from outside of the school helping to pay the salary. That went away. Now we've got like $220,000, $250,000 for a communications department. Again, we can take that back to the schools, let them handle it like we've done in the past, okay, and save a little money, and then get these kids after school, summer school, the driver's education. I mean, there's so many things that have been cut, and they all impact the students. There's nothing in here in the budget that I see that impacts the administrative. And again, here's another thing that I looked in. John Blackman, he's the assistant superintendent. He's also been the head of HR. Now I think they're looking at some other position as operations. So is the assistant superintendent necessary? It was brought on board, I think, in the Jim Lewis reign. Okay? It's kind of like the vice presidency. I think Jackson said, you know, it may be anything and it may be nothing. So if we need a superintendent, we can do the search, okay? But do we need an assistant superintendent? John Blackman is an excellent educator.
Thank you for your comment. We did have one more come in, and last up will be Irma Regle. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Regal. Sorry I apologize.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity that representing the Latino community. It's kind of nervous up here, but need a Gloria to communicate much better with the teachers and make the details and can make good citizenships to turn and go to college and need to the policemen because it's necessary. It's not if you want to. It's necessary that can go in the school, in the middle school, in the high school. It's very important that teachers on the students can deal with drugs and alcohol, and it's very important to us too that can have that support in the community. And I really appreciated that time, and I wanted to say more, but I'm so nervous. I appreciate it so much, and concerned to us that can working together, Latin and it's community. It's no Latin and American. It's community. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. All right. That concludes the public comment portion, and we'll go ahead and move on to the consideration of 2016-17 school district budget and turn the time over to Dr. Holmes.
Okay, thank you. I want to take us a little bit down the road of how we got to where we are. And I, first of all, just want to note that this is the first time in a long time that the Blaine County School District has had to make budget cuts in order to balance revenue and expenditures. And I would like to commend everyone involved in this process because it has been very difficult. Cutting budgets is never fun. And I also want to reiterate that there is not a single position in the school district that does not impact students one way or another in being able to provide the support to schools so that teachers can be focused on teaching or whatever they're, and everybody that I have met in this wonderful district comes to work every day with that in mind, that they're here to support students regardless of what their title is. This process actually began last August when the board began a conversation about the necessity of having a balanced budget or revenues and expenditures balancing. In September of 2015, they continued this discussion. Was valued or not valued. In January, the board received the results of that financial planning survey and agreed to the development of a secondary education task force to look at what would we do if IB was not here. In February, there was a discussion of the guiding principles for the budget development, which gave direction to the administration as we developed the budget. In March, there was a review again of those guiding principles, and the list of 10.5 FTE for possible savings of $1.3 million was introduced to the board for their consideration at that time. In April, you received the initial draft budget, and I do want to note that this is the second year you've received that budget in April rather than the traditional May. It allows for much more conversation. Sometimes that is difficult, but it's also very important that we have lots of conversation. Then in May, last month, you had your add-delete sessions. You had, so different trustees brought forward ideas on what they thought we should add or delete. And also had a budget work session, and there were two community conversations, one hosted by Trustee Bustos and one by Trustee Clayton. So where we are now is a year-long process. I am very proud of the fact that we have maintained small class size throughout this all. It would be really easy if there was a small thing we could remove to find that $1.3 million in savings, but there is nothing small that can make us get there. So it's a accumulation of things. We have a balanced revenue and expenditure budget in front of you. I think it is focused on keeping the best staff possible, teachers, administrators, and classified, working with our students. And as you know, the modifications, if you would scroll down to that, thank you, Amanda, restoring the Latino outreach position, but having it reconfigured to serve Wood River Middle School and Wood River High School. Those are the two schools that struggle the most in their outreach. And then to make the budget whole, you see the removal of a maintenance vehicle replacement, reduction in board travel funds, and a reduction in projected school carryover funds to be able to make that, keep that even. Restore partial funding for mountain rides so that there is reduced cost passes available to students, and a further reduction in the communications department budget, which I want to point out to you. On my arrival, the communications budget was at $261,000. That's how much they spent. Excuse me, I don't know what their budget was, but that's how much they spent that first year, and it will be considerably less this year. The adding of the .5 special education parent liaison position as a classified position, offset by reducing the clerk of the board position to .5. And then the last one is a bookkeeping matter in negotiations with the Blaine County Education Association. The preference was to maintain the health benefits with the current low deductibles, and so the money needs to be moved from what we thought would be salary increases to the benefit line. It's just a movement of money. So if you're looking at the current budget book that is posted, you will not yet see the change in the special ed liaison and board clerk changes. Any change to that budget book ripples through every page of that book almost, and so it takes several days to make a change. But that, depending on what happens here tonight, we'll make those changes. And I do lastly want to say that once this budget is passed, or a budget is passed, I encourage everyone to put aside their differences and their harsh conversations and to focus on the work of the district. That's why every employee comes to work. That's why every parent sends their child to school. That's why the community supports us, is for the success of our children. And it has been a great conversation. I think it has made the budget stronger. But I hope that when we get done with this, we can all get behind supporting our kids for the coming year.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll go ahead and open it up for discussion at this time.
Well, I'd like to
Trustee
kinda
Bustos.
start off with, I really appreciate all the work that the admin, teachers, everybody who's put work into this. I really appreciate their effort into it. Obviously, there's been things that we haven't all agreed on, you know, that we've all want different things, it seems like. And, you know, listening to public comments, I am still hearing, you know, a lot of support for IB and looking at other ways to not, the cuts that we are considering are really affecting our children. And I think that we're hearing loud and clear about that. And I really think that, you know, maybe that there is some things that we really need to reconsider, you know, such as summer school. I know that the Y is coming in to, you know, provide services, but I don't think that they're the educational support that we've given over the years to those students who really need it. And by doing away with the summer school program, that we are really affecting those children, just to start off. So, summer school, and if my computer would have started up, I probably would have some more things to talk about, but I'm struggling with that. So, but those are things that you know, that I think we're hearing loud and clear, is that those are things that we need to include back into the budget, is summer school. You know, I've heard, you know, about driver's education, but I'm kind of on the fence about that. That's something, you know, where students, you know, if they truly want to have that, you know, maybe they could pay out of their pocket, or maybe we can come to an agreement on half cost or something. But I think that we need to really consider the impacts that these cuts are going to have on our children. So,
Further comments? Sure.
Yes, this is Liz Crooker here. And I'm looking after all of the long time that has been spent and all of the public input that was provided, and I'm seeing a disconnect between those months and months and months of supposed, you know, hearing the public's voice, and then the budget that we were presented. And that's what I am questioning here. I hear repeatedly, and we've gotten many, many emails by constituents talking about the positions that were cut close to the kids and the positions and departments that were cut that were farther away from the kids, that actually took the money from the educational direct impact side of the budget ledger. So while we may have spent an awful lot of time doing budget meetings with sticky dots and things like that, for some reason it's gone through the meat grinder and come out with a proposed budget that is not in agreement with what we're hearing the community's values truly are. And that's where I have a problem here, and that's why I suggested that the parent liaison be passed, because I had heard that that was wanted. We heard that last year. The Latino parent liaison, we all heard that was a critical position. We've heard again and again that IB has upped the bar, that there have been implementation issues, possibly with teachers. And my feeling is that it's not professional to simply cut it, that there should be a thorough review done, especially with parents having input. That's, as far as I'm concerned, the number one people I want to hear from, because they speak on behalf of their children. Mountain Rise is another one that affects the most economically challenged members of our community. The after-school program's the same. The summer school program's the same. I've heard the driver's ed mentioned. I haven't talked too much of that. We also heard one thing from a teacher that said that this is a common view of teachers, that the behavioral interventionalist specialist in the district office was an incredibly valuable position that was critical to the job that's done in the classroom. So that's also something that I think that should be put back in. So those are my comments, is that I think that the budget that has been proposed by board members is based on a lot of community input, a lot of which you heard tonight, hundreds of people signing a petition, and it fundamentally is different than the one we were presented, and it's our job to represent the public input. That's our job. That's why we're elected. So that's my input.
Okay. Further comments? Trustee Clayton.
Well, I think the first thing that really needs to be stated in this conversation is that the task that was assigned at the very beginning of this process was to come back to the table with a budget that was equal in expenditure and revenue. That was accomplished. That was not an easy process. That was a process that was going to will cause problems within the community, because when you go from one point to a lesser point, things will be taken away. No question. We've heard from multiple people their opinions on that. We don't hear from I think there's probably two sides. We hear one side strongly. I think there's other sides too. We may not have heard some positive feedback in that regard, but definitely pretty loud what the people who are vocal about what should be kept should stay. So when you look at the process, one of the biggest concerns I feel the community has is in the administrative payroll and the administrative compensation packages. And that is part of the conversation for shift right now, and I want to address that because I don't think that's appropriate at this juncture. We're made aware of it through this process. I think the community has got a much better sense of what the landscape is. I think people know much more now through the transparency and the way we have handled this and the information given. It hasn't been clandestine. It hasn't been behind closed doors. It's been in the community forefront. I credit you, Cammie, for taking on that open house that you did, much as I took that on too, and it was very enlightening to me. You know, it was enlightening and good, I think, to have a dialogue with constituency versus just our table talking and listening to the public comment and not really having an interaction. Out of that interaction, I look and am really concerned with and listening to the people with the way that the sentiment is being expressed. Because the sentiment that I see is really like the situation is disastrous and the situation is a catastrophic point in the juncture of the school district, when in fact I believe this is prudency that we're demonstrating in the fact that we brought the budget in line with expense and revenue. That is prudent procedure as the fiduciaries of this school district. We need to do that. That hasn't been done for the last, I believe, 8 years. That in and of itself is a pretty significant accomplishment, and I think as a group, we should credit ourselves for at least bringing it to that point. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is anything we do perfect? Absolutely not. We have strong critics who think we're quite imperfect. That's okay. We sit here, we have to do this, we have to make these decisions. So as we move it forward, getting back to the administrative thing, I'm really concerned there as we do a hasty chop or a hasty cut there, because if you look at the landscape currently, we have probably, arguably, beyond the superintendent, the most significant position within this district is that of the business manager. We currently have had that job posted for probably 4 months. We have no candidates for that position. Why don't we have candidates for that position? There is a sense of what is transpiring behind the scenes here within this district. Our leadership is probably somewhat in question to potential candidates because of the way we're managing things. And that is really concerning to me. Because if that then trickles down through to the rest of the administration, and I was here like you're taking away from the kids, and there's administration and there's teachers and there's classified. Well, administration plays a role in education too. That's kind of getting overlooked in this conversation. Administration keeps it together. Are the benefits high? Probably they are. We need to visit them. I mean, that's become apparent to me. That needs to be visited. It doesn't need to be visited in the next 2 weeks. It needs to be visited in the next year. We've shown the discipline in the last year to bring it to zero. Now we have to work to put money in the bank. We've committed to having 18% of our annual operating expense in our reserve account. That's the next step once we get to zero. If we didn't get to zero, we can't get to there. We've got to go methodically like that. And I'm not feeling a total I can't say that word, methodical approach to this whole thing. And I would like to see methodology from us. You know, we'll look at those things, I think, in the next year, and we'll do it. I hear about morale. And I can see some tension between certified staff and administrative staff. Well, they get all this, and we don't get that, and we give this, and they get that, and there's some parity. We need to address that. I feel we do need to address that and have that conversation. But at the same time, I don't want to do it hastily, because if there are people who will be on the reduced income side of that, they need to be made aware of that and been given enough time to make alternative plans in their lives and their lifestyles. What they're experiencing now is really not our fault. I don't even put it onto Gwen Carroll, because she came into a system that already had that methodology of compensation in place. Those perks and benefits that people portray, as they're portrayed, have existed. They're not new. They've always been there. We've inherited that, and now we have to analyze that. We have to move forward with that. But to just do it at this juncture, I think, is imprudent. I think that it will cause even more rancor within the ranks of the employees of the district and cause problems. I think it needs to be done systematically, effectively, and with some foresight in mind. There should be a salary schedule developed for administrative, just as there is in the rank and file for certified staff. There was never a schedule. Negotiations, not even negotiations were made. I guess they would be. They would be superintendent negotiations with individual staff, but there was no framework or template for people to work out. That needs to be developed and created. I think that we need to really look seriously at those things. Regarding the IB program, I hear people very much in support of that IB program. There are people out there who don't support it as well. My personal opinion on it is that we have paid for it, trained it, implemented it, and own it. We have the program. If we need the sticker to justify or guarantee our kids are getting into college, then we're not doing the best possible job we could be doing. Kids should be getting into college on their own merit, on their test scores, on their GPAs, on their essay writing ability, on their recommendations. Those are the reasons kids should be getting into high-level colleges. If 2 years of IB in high school and 3 years in middle school are the reason, I think we have competent teachers, and I think the competent teachers can take the best practices out of the IB program and apply them in the way that they see fit to do their work. So IB, I don't believe, personally, is as critical as people are making it out to be. I think we have the quality people on our staffs who can implement that methodology without the sticker. They've been trained on it. They know how to do it. We own the books. We own all of the resources. We apply those resources. So I don't see a big thing there. I'm really glad that we have put back in the Latino Outreach Liaison. I think that was critically important. I think we were pushing a little hard there to eliminate that. I think from the impassioned speeches I heard at our last meeting from the two representatives of the Hispanic community, that was like, whoa, really got to look at that one. That's something that is important, not only operationally, but symbolically. And I think we need to follow through with that. So I'm pretty much in favor of what's on the board right now. I'd like to see us move that forward. I'd like to have that budget in place, and there's my 20-minute tirade on that. So.
Dr. Holmes.
If I could just add a little history, since a lot of you trustees are new, and I'm fairly new. One of the big tasks that the board grappled with last year was putting in a salary schedule for the classified, because they had no salary schedule either. And Mr. Chatterton drafted a salary schedule for administrators, but the year was up, and then we entered into this budget process. So it is something that is on the to-do list, and it is something that, as Trustee Clayton said, takes time. You can't just do it in overtime or do it overnight and expect folks to be able to adjust to the changes.
All right. Well, I appreciate the eloquent way in which you were able to articulate your thoughts and comments. I would also like to thank the staff, administration, parents, teachers, the community for having the courage to speak up and fight for the programs that they feel are so critical. It's good for us as board members to be able to hear that, and I would really like to recognize and congratulate and thank both Trustee Bustos and Trustee Clayton for holding those community meetings, the listening sessions. At the last May meeting, I kind of played my cards and voiced a lot of support for the budget as presented to us at that time. Since then, I've taken a lot of time to reflect on all the public comment that we've received, and it's something that after listening to that public comment, then went and talked to Dr. Holmes about and see a lot of those changes made within the budget that's presented now. I'd like to thank Trustee Bustos for fighting for that outreach coordinator for the Latino community. I agree that it is a very important role to fulfill. And yeah, I'll go ahead and leave it at that. So, further comments?
Yeah, I'm sorry, you haven't spoken. You go first. No,
go ahead, Trustee Freund.
First, I'd like to apologize to everyone for having been absent from much of the budget discussions. I am dealing with health issues, and they've not allowed me to be present at the meetings. I would like to clarify some of my thoughts on the budget proposals this evening. I absolutely believe that administrative compensation and benefit packages should be scrutinized. The Board of Trustees agrees on this, and this is why a motion was passed at our April board meeting to do just that in the fall. I believe that this should be a process that deserves thought and consideration with a thorough examination of budget constraints coupled with the need for highly qualified professionals, and not a line item jammed into the budget process. To me, this is the fiscally responsible way to deal with administrative pay and benefits. What kind of message does this send that a school board can slash the pay and benefit packages of principals and district administration at its whimsy? We are having a very difficult time replacing our business manager due to actions of this board. Who is going to want to come and work for our district? We cannot afford to settle for every principal and district administrator position to be filled with bottom-of-the-barrel candidates because of rash decisions made by our school board. I also do not believe in deleting the entire communications budget for our district. I do agree that cuts to this department should continue to be implemented, but I cannot vote tonight for its outright elimination. For years, the public clamored for transparency from our school district. I fear that slashing this department will impede the district's ability to communicate effectively with the public. The district's website needs to be maintained, and I believe strengthened. I do think this department deserves scrutiny and that there should be increased opportunities to engage and gather feedback from the community. It is frustrating to me that my options for voting tonight appear black and white, and that my fellow trustees cannot seem to find middle ground. What kind of a message does this send to our students? I believe that our ultimate duty as trustees is to work together, engage each other's opinions, and achieve compromise. I am urging my fellow trustees to vote on the district's proposed amended budget this evening, and to continue working on examining the contested budget items throughout the year that we can all support and that are fiscally prudent for our district. To me, this would send a clear message that we are all about putting students first. I would like to make the motion that we adopt the revised compromise budget presented by the administration. I haven't finished my
Well, before there's any further discussion, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Trustee Freund, since you made the motion, discussion is your opportunity first.
Okay.
Yeah, Trustee Freund? Any further discussion?
No.
Okay. Trustee Clayton, you seconded. Any further discussion?
Not from me.
All right. Trustee Corker, go ahead.
Okay. So, the district administration portion of the budget came out with, just sticky notes all over them. And so this has been something that was ongoing for quite a while. And then we got a budget that didn't touch it. So what I'm not understanding is why that wasn't, with this long, drawn-out process that when Carol had told us all about at the beginning of this meeting, why that was not more well thought out in terms of speaking of trustee Kern's suggestion, a compromise. We never got any kind of compromise to that to the district administration package. We just got it was basically just put through. So that's my first comment about that. The communications department was the same exact thing. This has been on the radar since the very first bit, very first year it started, 2011. This has been the longest thing that I've seen with the most pushback from the community, and yet it just keeps getting ignored again and again. So that's not a surprise, and yet that appeared in its complete form in the budget. So I'm not really understanding either of those things. As far as, first of all, I agree. I just wanted to go back a little bit to Sean's comment. I really do appreciate everybody who's come to this meeting and stood up and so eloquently put words to their thoughts. Whether I agree with them or we all agree with them or not, it requires a lot of preparation to come in front of a board and guts to stand up there and put yourself out. So that's part of the democratic process. It helps us incredibly. So I really just wanted to make sure that everybody was that they knew it. I appreciate that so much. So at any rate, getting back to this, I feel like every year that I've gone through this budget process, it always comes down to the same exact reasoning, which is, oh, this is a sudden thing and we can't change it now. That would be capricious. And so every year we hear the same type of reasoning, and yet I think that's the exact right time to be able to talk about these things, to be able to integrate public input, and to be serious about it, and not to let it drag on, and for the board to actually stand up and do the work that the public expects it to do, which is to spend the money that the public entrusts us with wisely to the benefit of children. So that's where I stand on this. I think that the other things get pushed under the rug. Somehow it happens that all of the things that benefit adults are not dealt with year after year, and yet things that benefit kids, there's much less discussion about them and talk about capricious. Those things sometimes are soft before you even know it. But in fact, I've seen several times where a job description went out for a position that was not even agreed upon. And so I feel like there's a lot that I'm not understanding about how the board needs to be in control of the budget process, and it not always gets put off into the future as being something that we can't do now.
Further comments?
I did have a question about the IB program. Somebody had made the statement, it's going to fail me who had brought it up. The IB coordinator had their position changed early on, so this has been taking place before we've even approved doing away with IB. So they were no longer an IB coordinator. I don't know if I was clear on that, or if maybe Dr. Holmes could clarify.
There is still an IB coordinator. The position has not been overly active since January, when the secondary ed task force was created to look at what should our secondary framework look like as we go forward, because it's kind of futile for a person to be doing a lot of work if it's hanging in limbo. But the position still exists at this moment, or did when school ended last week.
Okay. No, I was just kind of curious if we hadn't made any formal decisions on it, we were still looking into it, why their position changed and they weren't doing the work that they were before, if that was not board approved.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, we have the motion to...
No, I didn't understand the input about what was the answer to that?
The IB coordinator position is still in existence, or was in existence as of last Friday when the school year ended. However, there's not been a lot of active work on that behalf, as to be very frank, schools have been wondering, is this going forward, is it not going forward? With the board agreeing in January to the creation of a secondary ed task force to create a framework for what should be the course of study for our secondary students, that has been the primary work with that coming out of the board meeting in January.
Yeah, it seems like the IB coordinator being on the chopping block in terms of that committee was not really understood by at least this board member, and I know a lot of people in the community. The task force seems to be taking a lot of responsibility for policy, and I'm not understanding exactly why we're not getting more communication about that, number one, and number two, why the board is not directing that based on public input.
Do you want me to respond?
Yeah, if you would, please.
Actually, most of the trustees submitted names of people to be on that committee who are on the committee. I've given you several updates in my Friday updates to you about it. And the goal of the task force is to have a proposal to bring to you next year in November. Because you are correct. The task force can't set what the course of study for our students can be. They can make a recommendation, and then it will be up to the board's approval.
Right, and the recommendation seems like it's going somewhat in this direction that maybe in a different direction than the community is looking for, at least from what I'm hearing from the comments tonight, because it does seem like the IB program going away in its fully fledged form is is one of the tasks that the task force is looking at, and yet it is strongly opposed by most people that I've talked to, parents and people who have written in. So there's a divergence there, and perhaps the committee seems like a kind of middleman between what the community wants and what the board fears, and that we're getting two different stories on that.
Okay, thank you
So
for your...
I question that. I question what the purpose of that is if we're going to get a kind of fait accompli that IB is not necessary and what the community thinks it is.
All right, thank you for your comments. With that, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. We'll do a roll call vote for the motion that was laid forth by Trustee Freund of accepting or adopting the budget as presented.
The proposed
The
compromised revised budget.
Yeah, the proposed compromised revised budget as presented. Trustee Bustos.
Nay.
Trustee Corker.
No.
Trustee Freund.
Aye.
Trustee Clayton.
Aye.
Trustee Benyon. Aye. Motion carries 3-2. Budget has been adopted. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the annual budget hearing?
I move to adjourn the annual budget hearing.
Second? I'll go ahead and second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And we'll go ahead and move right into our regular June board meeting.
I think it was 4-0 because I didn't hear two.
Oh, okay. Motion carries 4-0.
I didn't hear two voices on the phone.
And we'll go ahead and move into the regular June board meeting and ask if there's any additions, corrections, modifications, or substitutions to the current agenda.
I would like to bring up. I'll let it.
Trustee,
Amendment.
okay, so I can tell which ones, can you announce yourself as you begin speaking on
Sure.
Polycom?
This is Elizabeth Corker.
Okay, Trustee Corker?
Okay. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. I would like to amend the agenda to enable all board members to be able to have direct access to Elaine Eberharder Mackey as board counsel for school district matters. And I know I have to give a reason for that.
I'm a little confused
I
at your
couldn't hear it.
modification to the agenda, Trustee Corker. Could you please restate that?
So I would like to amend the agenda to enable a vote, I guess it would be a vote, for all board members to be able to have direct access to Elaine Eberharder Mackey as board counsel for school district matters.
So, to my understanding, you're proposing that we amend the agenda under the decision portion of the meeting to have a vote to allow board members access to Eberhard Mackey?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there a discussion?
Hey, I'm supposed to give a reason, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, my reason is Ms. Eberharder Mackey is widely regarded as the best lawyer in Idaho regarding school district matters. Her integrity is beyond reproach. Currently, only 4 people have direct access to board counsel. Those 4 people are the board chair, the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and the business manager. As a board member, I do not have direct access to counsel for school district business. This has never happened before. It is incomprehensible to me that 3 members of staff would have direct access to counsel that is supposed to be board counsel, and yet board members do not. Restriction of access to high-quality counsel, and I'm talking about direct access, has prevented me from getting unbiased legal opinions that I need to do school district business, has hurt the ability of the board to do the best job possible, and has cost the district significant sums of money that should have been spent on children's education.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? And do you have any further discussion, Trustee Corker?
No, I think that's about it.
Trustee Bustos? Trustee Freund or Clayton, any discussion?
So we're just voting on this to add it to the agenda?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay? Motion carries 3-1. It has been added to the agenda, and it will be item number...
Excuse me. 7?
Yeah, item number 7. The last item right before adjournment. So, okay. Seeing no further additions, corrections, modifications, or substitutions, we'll go ahead and move forward with the accolades and turn the time over to Dr. Holmes.
Okay, our first accolade is for Lori Rady, who is the secretary at Wood River Middle School, and I think I saw her sneaking in earlier.
They were both here, but they left.
Oh, we took too long to recognize her. Okay, well, it's on tape. And Darcy, are you still here, Darcy? I saw you too. Did they both left. Okay. Well, here's to Lori and Darcy. Middle school is never easy. For my daughter, Emma, it became even harder when she was diagnosed with not one but 2 life-impacting diseases during these already painful years. I don't know how I could have allowed Emma to go through the struggles of figuring out her new normal without knowing that she had 2 moms at the front office who watched over her every day when I couldn't. Lori and Darcy were loving and gentle when she needed it, strict and firm when necessary, and always supportive of Emma in her times of need. I could always count on them to take on the parenting job I needed them to do in just the way it needed to be done. I cannot begin to tell you how much Lori and Darcy mean to Emma. However, they did not act alone. It truly does take a village to raise a child, and surrounding Emma in the last 3 years has been the whole Wood River Middle School family. We consider Fritz Peters, Rob Ditch, Kathy Goulet, the counselors, Officer Brad, and all of her amazing teachers to be part of the team. They say that people who choose to work at the middle school level are truly gifted, and I, for one, can attest that as a parent, I am honored that my daughter was able to have the loving support of these professionals during such a critical time in her life. Emma will miss her Wood River Middle School family as she moves on to the high school, but will never forget the support she received during the time she needed it most. Submitted by Dory Madsen. Second accolade is for Carla Scanlon, the gate teacher at Bellevue this past year. Mrs. Scanlon has been a marvelous, are you here? I'm sorry, I went right, zooming past that. I saw her Saturday cleaning out her room. Okay. Mrs. Scanlon has been a marvelous teacher for both our children who participate in the GATE program. She engages them in activities that involve the whole child. My children look forward to GATE and the lessons they are learning. Ownership that my children have when they come home with their completed projects or the enthusiasm they share about the projects they are working on has been amazing. Mrs. Scanlon is aware of and meets the individual needs of both of my children. They have grown during their time with Mrs. Scanlon. They are both more confident in sharing their ideas and working with others. She will be missed by our family as she transfers to Cary as their librarian. They are very lucky to get such a well-rounded and caring teacher. Thank you to Mrs. Scanlon for all you have taught our children, as well as all of the love you have given to them. Submitted by Rhonda Ward. So, Cary, I saw John Peck earlier. Lucky you. Jim Watkinson. Did he sneak in without me seeing him? He's our music accompanist. After a multi-day weekend schedule of string recitals and honors orchestra performances, my husband, Gary, was inspired to write the following tribute to Jim Watkinson. Always in the background during orchestra strings and choral concerts and rehearsals, Jim's professionalism, extensive experience, and remarkable forbearance with the many levels of students' musical abilities may not always be obvious, but we feel that he deserves recognition and appreciation. So here's what Gary wrote. Ode to a middle school solo string student's piano accompanist. Thanklessly is the task of the middle school solo string student's piano accompanist. One who can instantly adjust to step changes in tempo in the middle of a phrase, or who can play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star 4 times in a row, swiftly adjusting to random changes such as forgetting to repeat, missing a beat in a measure, or an unexpected stop at the end of a phrase, where a single triple piano key note prompts the student's memory into the next phrase. Once again, adjusting to another tempo change, the next phrase is finally remembered and the song progression finally resumes. After a few intonationally challenged pieces, the middle school solo strings student's piano accompanist then skillfully performs complex musical arrangements like Concerto No. 2 in D minor, Hungarian Dance No. 2 by Johannes Brahms, and Introduction and Polonaise by Carl Bohm, with all the finesse, compassion, and expression of the finest professional musician. As the audience burst into thunderous applause to encourage the first-year students whose musical interpretation is limited by their yet-to-be trained muscle coordination, for the student they know struggles through yet perseveres to improve, for the really talented student who they know is coasting through, and for the hard-working student whose efforts are no less than a rocket shot to the moon, the middle school solo string student piano accompanist sits serenely in the background and unnoticed, politely smiling and non-judgmental forbearance. With the proficiency, patience, endurance, tolerance, fortitude, and talent of the middle school solo string students piano accompanist, the music program would not exist. Next time you go to a middle school solo strings recital, thank your middle school solo string student piano accompanist. Submitted by Marilyn DiFrenio. The next one is for the Wood River Middle School softball program. Jason Raw. Stand up so we can give you credit. Matt Nelson, I saw him earlier. You didn't sneak out, did you? There he is. Jonah Torseth, are you here? Is Jonah here? I didn't see Jonah. Okay. All right, dear Board of Trustees. We are writing this accolade for Wood River Middle School softball program. Coach Roth was the perfect combination of enthusiasm, encouragement, and skill development. His attitude was infectious, and he gave each player the attention and time they needed in order to improve. His position was 100% volunteer and 100% heart. It is amazing that we have people in the community who are willing to give their time and resources so generously to our youth. We want to recognize Coach Roth for taking time away from his own family and business in order to help our kids. We also appreciate the support of Athletic Director Jonah Torseth, the head coach, Matt Nelson, and other coaches. Thank you for providing this opportunity for female athletes at Wood River Middle School. The learning opportunities both on and off the field have been outstanding. Submitted by Jennifer Liebram, Scott Seward, Liz Holtham, and Heather Crocker. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. All right, Melanie Schrader. I didn't see her either, but I could have missed her. Is she here? No. All right, she is the gate teacher at Wood River Middle School. This is the night for gate teachers. In a district full of outstanding teachers, the staff of the animal shelter at the Wood River Valley would like to recognize one who has truly distinguished herself for our cause, Melanie Schrader. Ms. Schrader doesn't teach her students the power of volunteerism and giving back by standing in front of the classroom and lecturing. She does it by doing. Her students have regularly come to the shelter on volunteer days to improve the lives of our shelter pets. Without fail, Ms. Schrader is the first one here, with an enthusiastic smile on her face and a bottle of sunscreen at hand, ready to make a difference and show her students that volunteering is a rewarding, lifelong passion. Ms. Schrader's class is so dedicated to the shelter that they applied for a CenturyLink Middle School philanthropic grant and won it. The $1,500 is an incredible amount of money for a classroom to raise and will go a long way toward caring for dogs and cats in need. But in true Schrader fashion, they didn't stop there. They raised an additional $590 at a school dance. To say we're overwhelmed by their efforts is an understatement. The unfortunate state of animal welfare in Idaho only makes us more committed to our mission to improve the quality of life in our community by connecting animals and people. ASWRV is Idaho's first no-kill shelter and has always strived to be a shining example of what a progressive, forward-thinking shelter should be. We have quite a journey ahead of us, but with community support from people like Ms. Schrader, we know we will get there. We are so lucky to have her spreading her generosity, kindness, compassion, and knowledge to our students. Submitted by the staff of the Animal Shelter of the Wood River Valley. This next accolade, I know they're here because they have to be. Mike Chatterton and Howie Royal, please stand up. I know. I see you giving me the stink eye. Dear Blaine County Board of Trustees, this letter is to recognize Mike Chatterton and Howard Royal with the board accolade for their work in mentoring and supporting Tyson in successfully completing his senior project of building a sound recording studio at Silver Creek High School. Both men provided countless hours of coaching and mentoring to the student as he worked his way through the project. They provided advice on the project and budget management, as well as critical contacts to individuals in the trades that could help with the project's success. If you have not yet toured the new sound recording studio at Silver Creek High School, I urge you to do so. It is a first-rate studio made possible by Tyson's hard work and the numerous community partners that Mr. Chatterton and Mr. Royal brought to the table to collaborate with Tyson. This project is but one example of the way that Mr. Chatterton and Mr. Royal approach their daily work. While neither are certified educators, both do the work that they do for the success of Blaine County students. They are educators at heart. They are constantly looking for ways that they can better use Blaine County resources to ensure our children have the best educational experience possible. And I submitted that. Thank you very much.
In true returning the favor, would Dr. Holmes please stand up?
I was fair and 11 more.
We had a message come in as well, and I felt like needed to be shared. It says, naysayers abound in our little mountain town, but you know there are many in the valley, including me, who trust and respect your leadership. You are open to all dialogue and ideas, and then utilize your experience and care for students and their learning as the basis for your decisions. Keep up your sense of humor, and I hope hikes in the Idaho mountains are a big part of your summer. Submitted by Claudia Gettard.
Thank you.
All right. We'll go ahead and move forward with the agenda and turn the time over to the Wood River High School for the school report.
Good evening, Blaine County Board. Tonight we're going to be discussing the Wood River High School in our annual report. And I just wanted to take a couple of moments to begin with, just to, as I have shared my first year with you, I want to just say how honored I was to be a part of such a great school with a group of kids and a group of teachers who are truly dedicated to what's going on in this valley. And to say most definitely that everybody does know the support the Valley gives to us, but I have never witnessed that. And so to see it firsthand, to see not only just the contributions that this community makes to our school and for our students, but also the amount of time and energy that people all up and down the valley are willing to give to our students to help them have a wonderful experience. Last week we had our culminating event, which was the 2016 graduating class, and it was truly a wonderful experience to see 2,000 people, all of which have given tremendous time and effort, not just our students, but to our families and parents who have borne the last 16 years of the educational process, but also to our faculty who and staff, both not just on our campus, but also K-12, to share in the experience that these kids have throughout their years in schools to ensure that they're successful in life much after high school. So what I would like to do for our presentation this evening, because it's kind of boring to listen to us, I'd rather share or give an opportunity for one of our students to come up and do the presentation, because that's what we're here for. We're here for our kids to be able to do this. So at this time, I'm going to invite two people up to
for the presentation. One is going to be Mr. Chris Koch. He is our student union advisor and assists in many of the or all of the activities that we have on campus. But I would also like to introduce to you Ms. Emily Thayer. She is the Wood River High School 2016-17 board liaison, and so this is her first introduction to you. And let's have some fun.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I hope you all enjoy this brief presentation about the fantastic year we had at Wood River High School. The abundant variety of sports, musical groups, and clubs available at Wood River enable students to thrive to their greatest potential and have an awesome high school experience. Both the boys and girls soccer teams had great seasons. The boys competed in the Division IV state tournament. The cross-country team was the biggest it's ever been this year. The boys and girls teams both made it to state. The football team worked very hard this year and made it to the playoffs. Even though our cheerleaders are a small squad of girls, they were able to support our teams the entire school year. Their support and enthusiasm greatly increased our school spirit as a whole. The boys basketball team this year had one of the best seasons in Wood River history, and the girls team suffered a few setbacks this year, but is looking for a more successful season this upcoming year. With track, we had 12 students qualify for state, and 8 of those students placed. Nicole Shardlow specifically broke the school record for pole vault at 8 feet. And along with all of these sports, our wrestling team did extremely well, and seniors Ryan Anderson and Colby Castle both qualified for state. Also, our volleyball team this year was very young and worked really hard all season. They will be participating in many camps and tournaments over the summer. The prospects for Wood River Volleyball are looking very good. The Wood River Orchestra, directed by Rebecca Martin, had several concerts this year and competed in Anaheim, California this spring. Wood River has many, go ahead to choir, next one, yep, okay. Wood River has many opportunities to participate in different choirs. We have Enchante, B-Tones, Cola Voce, Carmina Montis, and Spiritus Choir. All the music departments, band, orchestra, and choir did extremely well this year. They traveled to Anaheim, California to compete against bands, choirs, and orchestras from all over the country and won several first-place awards. The Wood River debate team continued to impress us all this year by qualifying 8 students to the state competition, 3 to the national competition, and 2 students received All-American awards. The Drama Club worked very hard this year to put on 2 productions. They presented Taming Romeo and Noises Off to the school and community. Our Water Club is the environmental club at our school. WATER stands for We Appreciate the Earth's Resources. This year the club promoted environmental conservation by hosting an exhibition to demonstrate how trash is affecting our planet. The Model United Nations Club traveled to UC Berkeley to participate in the Model United Nations National Conference this spring. We also had a few new clubs join in this year. Rock Climbing Club, Mountain Biking Club, Space Club, and Wolverine Prince are a few of those new clubs. The Student Council puts on several events throughout the year to fundraise, promote school spirit, and to make our school a fun place to be. Homecoming week was full of dress-up days, football games, pep assemblies, parade floats, and fun for all. Our king and queen this year were Brady Delgadillo and Maggie Svingy. You skipped one, I think. Maybe not. Okay, go one more. Okay. Our casino-themed senior prom was a great success. It raised $2,000 for the senior class and was a fun event for all who participated. Here are the results of our recent student council elections. Student body class president is Kenny Pratt. Student body vice president is Julia Larson. Student body secretary and treasurer is Joseph Anderson. Senior class governor is Mackenzie Shardlow. Senior class lieutenant governor is Cayman Clark. Junior class governor is Grace Evans. Junior class lieutenant governor is Leah Thayer. Sophomore class governor is Taylor Warnig-Hebert. Sophomore class lieutenant governor is Layla Baugh. Freshman class governor is Calvin Geisler. And freshman class lieutenant governor is Josie Saley. And here are a few statistics from our 2016 graduation. We had a total of 167 graduates. $1.2 million were awarded to these graduates in scholarships. 87% of our students went on to at least a 2 or 4 year college or university, and 33.5% of our graduating class was the first generation in their family to go on after high school. And now we would like to present a quick video that will show you all the awesome things that happened this year.
When Personal Project came around, I knew I wanted to do something I was really passionate about, and the first thing that popped in my head was basketball. And I probably should do something to benefit the community, or benefit just some kids in the community at least. So I decided to go with just a youth basketball camp, like a little skills clinic for a few hours.
So I'm in computer repair, and as part of this class we run a computer repair shop. So you can come in any time, third period, with a broken computer or a computer that needs cleaning up, and our computer repair shop will fix it up.
We're selling nachos in the front of the cafeteria. The money is going for our field trips and for helping us to pay off like for the road trips, like we go to Twin and stuff. In the front of the cafeteria, May 11th.
So I learned about Rose Camp, or I wanted to join because in 6th grade it was really fun for me and it was a really good experience.
When I was in 6th grade I went to Rose Camp and I had a really cool counselor and I had a lot of fun because I met a lot of new kids.
It's a great way for 6th graders to get together because they're just getting to the middle school, so they don't really know each other yet, and by them being put into cabins they get to learn each other on like a new intimate level and to become really good friends.
Does anyone have questions?
Open it up to the board for questions or comments. Can we get the lights? Thanks. I'd just like to start off saying congratulations, welcome. We look forward to working with you as our new student board liaison from Wood River High School. Excellent job presenting, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Anything else from the other trustees?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Next up, we have one of our former board liaisons, Mr. Tyson Spellman, doing a guest presentation. And we'll go ahead and turn the time over to him.
Hello, my name is Tyson Spellman, project manager. Thanks for having me again.
My name is Nathan Niffen. I'm a former student of Blaine County School District, and I'm advising Tyson on the matters that we're about to discuss with you this evening.
So I'm going to jump right into it, if that's okay. Back in February, I believe it was, we asked you for $17,000 to build a sound studio, and now in June, I'm proud to tell you that it is complete and under budget. I can't give you an exact number because we're still reconciling all our financial stuff with all the donations that we got, but I can give you a number that is $15,000, 500 below or above that number. Yeah, it was pretty incredible, all the people that donated to the project to get it done. Thousands of dollars were donated to that project, and hours I can't even count. Myself included, I probably put 500 plus, 600 plus hours actual work time into it outside of managing the project itself. As far as the construction standpoint goes, it is not totally complete. the things that are required to do that before it is complete finally is we have yet to install the door that is in the next room. It's not crucial to the actual sound studio. We're planning on doing that soon. Within the actual studio itself, the big things are we have to install some sound foam on the ceiling of the sound studio, and then paint touch-up. And then besides that, it's pretty much done, and we're completely done. There's no more big purchases to be made, so we're under budget. But as for an operating standpoint, there is still a bit to do, and I'm not asking for any money. I'm just informing you. It's not a full functioning sound studio. We can record up to one thing currently, and for a sound studio, you're going to want to record more than just one thing at a time. And so there's a few things that we have to purchase, and that's what Nathan's here to talk to you about.
So what Tyson is beginning to discuss with you about is that we have a great space to record music in, and that's the most important part. That's really what is going to be bringing people to this space, not only just students, but also outside members of the community who may very well donate money to you. That's something that Principal Mike Len has been discussing with me and Tyson about as kind of a big picture goal about this place. So the foundation is solid, and I'm very actually impressed with what Tyson's done so far. The thing is, in order to really take the next step and have a fully functioning studio, you need to have the equipment that is going to essentially record music proficiently and have a good quality, professional quality, which is what we're coming here to talk with you this evening. To really break it down, the studio can use many different things, but bottom line, it needs a new computer, really an iMac, a Macintosh is the standard for the recording industry, and if you're wanting to teach students the skills necessary for going out into the world and being successful professionals in the music and entertainment industry, they're going to need to learn on the Mac. Now, yes, that is a little bit expensive as far as computers go, but it really is an essential piece. It's the brain of the whole operation. So that needs to be purchased. Furthermore, there needs to be programming for the Macintosh to run on that could record the music. That will need to be purchased as well. I have several options that I could give you as well after this presentation. But one in particular that we have listed here is Logic Pro X. That's, I'd say, the least expensive one for you. And going on to that, you're going to need basically microphones, as many as you can get. As Tyson said, right now you can only record one at a time. That's not really going to cut it, even if you're bringing in just a singer-songwriter with the guitar. You need to have 2 microphones for that, guitar and voice, let alone if you're going to try to record a whole band, you're unable to do it. So get as many microphones as you can, and basically, something to plug them into going into the computer. So really, that's the next steps that need to be taken for the studio to really fulfill, I think, the dreams that Tyson had for it. Because right now, honestly, it's still a room. It's a very nice room, and it has great potential, but you're not going to be able to do anything and really use the money that was already spent on it unless you further invest in this gear. So that's really kind of what we're coming to bring to the table today with you all, and just say that the work is definitely not done. So
if we could go back to 2 more slides, I believe it is. Yep. So I did not make this presentation, and it was kind of slapped together kind of fast. Just keep that in mind. But so if we jump to number 5 here, because none of the stuff behind that matters. It was created May 11th. It was our opening night, so that was 1 month ago. And in that past month, we've been kind of putting ourselves together and getting everything organized. And I'm planning on doing the finishing up the construction process within the next few weeks, hopefully. Construction's slow and can be, unpredictable. But so as Nathan here said, the next steps are really to, we've built the space and it's there, but now we need to fill it with the proper equipment to get it running and get it all set up. And Big Mike and I were talking, and Nathan here, and that's kind of what we're planning on doing over the next month or year or so, is just really getting it up and running. We've already had some community members interested in recording there, and just the more people we get in the door, the more opportunity that leaves for donation of equipment, time, just people in general, just knowing about it, getting the word out there. I'm planning on coming back next month with exact numbers on how much it cost, the donated amount, and then along with that, the final cost of what it would have been without the donation. I believe that's pretty much everything. Oh yes, one last thing I wanted to say. The actual operation of the Sound Studio will all be conducted by students who are certified and trained to operate the Sound Studio. Just thought that'd be cool to add there. Yep. So I believe that's everything. Thank you for having me today.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll go ahead and open it up to the board for questions, comments.
So you mentioned that there would be community members who want to go and record there. Are there any plans to charge them for that, or is that?
That we had discussed that, but not to great detail. In the back of my own mind, I was kind of picturing we'd have something, something like a very cheap rate. But Mike's vision, the principal, is just to have it for free. Community members come in there. It hasn't, like I said, been discussed at length, but as of now, I believe we're just going to have it open and free. And the main thing we have to figure out is scheduling, because there's going to be a big list of people who want to get in there, because it's a pretty nice facility. But definitely, I believe students should take priority. I'm not sure how we're going to organize it yet, but as of charge for it, as of now, we're planning on not charging people.
Okay. And what is the estimated cost for the additional equipment that you guys do need?
For the additional equipment, we're going to leave that to you.
Well, I've calculated several different, variations you could look at, depending on a budget. I would kind of put this together really with not any given number of what we have left to spend, but a bare minimum for something that I feel is professionally adequate and can really help the students learn what it's like to work in a professional setting. You're looking at approximately $2,500 to $3,000. That can be worked down a little bit. I'm just kind of giving you a conservative number, I guess. One thing to keep in mind is that the school district, with basically any dealer of music gear, can apply for academic versions of such software and computers as well. As far as I'm aware, the school district currently has such a deal with Apple at the moment, which may be able to bring down the cost on the computer. I don't know that for sure. Same with the programs. For instance, one such program, which I have listed here, and I'll give you guys copies of all this afterwards. The standard version costs $450. If you get the academic version, it's half the price at $269. So that's why I'm not quite sure on the number, just because I wasn't given the budget, and also I'm pretty sure that the school district will be able to get those academic discounts. So, but definitely I think you're looking at well over $2,000 to really get this off the ground, I'd say.
Okay. Further questions, comments?
Well, just initial thoughts on this is that you guys are talking about, offering this recording studio for free to everybody. Initial thoughts could be that it could be free to students, and then if there are community members that may be charging them something, that might be comparable to what would be charged in other areas.
Yeah,
maybe on a even further reduced rate. Just
There's,
might be something to consider.
There is a facility up north at the YMCA. It's not set up for recording, but it's kind of like a jam room. And I can't remember an exact number, but it was pretty pricey per hour. And so I was thinking maybe we base it off of that and do a cheaper version off of that. Because as of now, I think that's the only place I know of that you go pay and play. I'm sure there's probably other places, I just don't know of them. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think that can be further investigated and discussed in the future. So, okay, excellent. Thank you very much for your work and on completing the project under budget.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. We'll go ahead and move into the public comment section of the agenda. And we have a few students that we're going to move to the top of the list, and we'll go ahead and start with Diana or Dana Motzkin.
I'm Dana Motzkin. I'm here to talk about the transgender and non-gender conforming policy that has been presented to you guys. It was just passed by the policy committee, and this is probably your first time seeing the official policy. I want you guys to know how important this is to not only the students, but the community members that have students in your schools, and not just the high schools, but like the middle schools and the elementary schools as well. This is very important to provide a very safe environment for students that are in school right now and students to come on to Wood River and in this Blaine County district. It's important to have a safe environment for everybody to learn, so that it's not just easier for some people to learn, whereas it's harder for other people to learn when they're not comfortable. I think that you guys just needed to know that, is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Next up is Shannon Robertson.
I'm Shannon Robertson, and I'm here to comment on the same policy. I graduated last Friday in the class of 2016, and I did not enjoy a single minute of it. I'm transgender. I do not identify with the gender I was assigned at birth. I identify as non-gender binary, which means I don't feel like a girl or a boy. Since junior year, I've been dreading graduating because girls wear white and boys wear green, and I'm neither, but because it's my assigned gender, I would be given a white robe. I'm lucky enough to have a supportive mother who would not call me her daughter, but instead her non-gendered entity. I'm one of the few people who is blessed to not have to hide themselves at home, and in a situation where I'm so lucky and supported, it would be blasphemy to take the robe I was assigned. So in November, I decided I would paint my white robe half green because I respect the robes are colored to match school pride, and I felt this would be an adequate compromise to make myself comfortable and not completely white a girl or green a boy, but still embrace school tradition. On Friday, I walked across the stage in a white robe. I was given support of family, friends, and teachers, and I was still too afraid to do anything. I did not feel safe. I spent the last week of high school miserable, lashing out in anger at all the people around me because I didn't want to have to walk the stage. If my family hadn't come so far to visit, I would have begged to receive my diploma in private so I'd never have to wear that robe. I know I'm not the first person who's trans to walk across the stage in a robe that makes them uncomfortable, but it's distressing that I, a person who doesn't have to fear verbal, emotional, or physical abuse as a repercussion at home, was too afraid of my peers to assert my gender identity. No one wants to be called names or harassed, and I know school policy protects against that, but according to my birth certificate, calling me a girl isn't currently defined as harassment. It's stating a basic truth. And because I don't have a recognized gender to transition to, people find it hard to substitute kid and person for girl and lady. I came out to a teacher who was very accepting in the moment, and he still continued to use gendered language in class, and even when it was just the two of us in the room. And I didn't have a policy to back me up in saying that it wasn't okay to make me uncomfortable. And every gendered word was reminding me, like a dagger, that I'd never be seen as anything but a girl. No matter how many times I heard it, even in passing, it still hurt. So when I walked across that stage, I wasn't beaming because I got my diploma and validation for my hard years of work. I was uncomfortable and sad because in the end, even with all the support I could have had, I didn't feel safe.
Thank you for your comment. Next up is Teresa Orison.
My name's Teresa Orison. Very nervous. I was trying to figure out what I should say today. I'm a former student of Blaine County Schools, currently a resident of Bellevue, and I have a daughter in the Wood River High School. My comments are in support of the Policy 502.12, transgender and gender nonconforming students. Sorry, it's kind of difficult for me. Being a transgender woman and growing up in this valley, I never could have imagined the day that, this would be a discussion in a school board meeting. When I went to school here, it was something I had to keep very hidden and secret about myself. It was unthinkable that I would ever be able to be who I am today when I was young. And the youth today, the transgender youth, they have an opportunity that I never had to be who they are. If they are supported by their family and their communities for who they are, they can thrive. And so many of us end up killing ourselves because we don't get that support. And I almost did it too, several times. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Next up is Gwen Van Doren Thompson.
Hi, I'm Gwen Van Doren Thompson, and I'm the parent of a transgender student. And I just want to say I'm in support of the district changing the policy to allow transgender students and staff to use bathrooms and use appropriate language in our school district. Growing up as an adolescent and a high schooler, and this is hard for the kids. It's hard for a lot of kids, and especially if you're at least the least bit different, it's even harder. If you live in our valley where there's not much diversity, it makes it even more difficult. So I encourage our school district and our community to embrace those differences. We're talking about a very small percentage of the students, of the student population. They have plenty of obstacles every day to overcome, and just going to the bathroom is such a small, such a simple act that they should just be able to do that and take that one obstacle, that very simple step in their life, in their daily activity. Just let them be able to do that. Let them go to the classroom and be called according to the identity that they identify with. I also think that this can be uncomfortable for other people in the school district, and if that's the case, then providing maybe a faculty bathroom for those people who find themselves uncomfortable, then it gives them an option. Nobody is forced to have to share that with somebody if that makes it uncomfortable. But I don't think targeting the transgender students and making them go to a specific bathroom would be the answer. But providing an alternative for those who would feel uncomfortable. Anyway, I just really encourage our community and our school district to embrace our differences and to be a supportive place and just let all of our students blossom and be able to shine. You know, our school district is good at that, so this is another avenue in which you can do that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Julie Carney.
Hi, I'm Julie Carney. Oops. And I'm here to talk in support of the policy for transgender and non-conforming students. I'm a social worker at the high school and also one of the co-advisors for GSA. And this has been a long road for the GSA in advocating for themselves, and I really want to commend all the students on their efforts to help change the environment in the school to where all students are safe. Not only does this policy impact transgender and non-gender conforming students, according to the CDC, all students, regardless of their gender identity, have the lowest level of depression, suicidal ideation, alcohol use, marijuana use. If they come from schools that have a positive school climate, and there's no there's no experiencing of homophobic teasing, and also GLSEN in 2001, a study they did that 90% of our transgender youth feel unsafe in school due to their gender expression, and LGBT plus students are more than twice as likely to attempt suicide. So, and in light of the events in Orlando, Florida, I think that even brings more of a emphasis on the importance of this issue at this day and time. My job as a social worker is to help students be able to focus on learning when they're in the school environment, and along with financial difficulties or emotional, mental difficulties or behavioral issues or social issues. It's also very difficult for students who, as I was mentioned before, who aren't following along what seems to be the norm, have a difficult time in school, feeling they can walk around and really focus on classes and being in the school in a safe way. So anyway, I encourage you to pass it. And I also really am looking forward to how this policy can help with education for our staff, and also just encouraging our community to have an understanding as well. So it's an opportunity for our school and our community to grow and become a better place for everyone. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Next up is Amber Rose Perainen. I apologize if I butchered that.
Prejudice. It hurts, but this isn't about sticks and stones. Even worse, prejudice breeds. So what does a prejudiced American have in common with an ISIS-preaching terrorist? Hate. Demonstrated 2 days ago in Orlando. This time, however, hate did not take down any iconic city buildings. It did not run down a marathon, hijack our travels, wound our houses of worship, or blame government. But hate did what it always does. It took. Hate terrorizes. My household motto is simple: happy body, happy mind, and happy heart, which means we encourage our child to grow organically, mind, body, and soul. Body, because there's so little control we have over our bodies, it's important that we appreciate the body we're given. Mind, because when thoughts aren't cluttered by cosmetics or mechanics, it is free to roam. And roaming thoughts is a kind of mind on travels, exploring, questioning, learning, theorizing, and growing. It is a mind that is literally open And that openness has thoughts and ideas that are boundless and strong. Heart, because it's the moral signature we spend a lifetime creating that we leave to the world. The organically growing body, mind, and heart of my 7-year-old son has a transgender foundation. My baby girl evolved into my big boy. He uses a bathroom with a toilet, a sink, and a trash can. Take away all their labels, and all bathrooms look alike. Adding more labels like a transgender bathroom looks a lot like colors-only bathroom. Labels are divides. They keep us away from unity. For our community to grow and contribute to our nation, we need to be a community who embraces growth, not suppression. We must embrace evolution, not stagnation. When I look at the youngest members of our community, I see so much potential. Presidents, doctors, scientists, politicians, astronauts, entrepreneurs, artists, philosophers, preachers, tech supporters, engineers, architects, watchmakers, business owners, volunteers. I see a Muslim girl coming to America for a better education and finding a cure for cancer. I see a poverty-stricken boy growing up to feed the world. I see a future that deserves less criminals, less suicides, and less hate. Thoughts that I leave to my child. I will not take blame for your mistakes, but I will also never take credit for your achievements and success either. You are going to influence people in good ways and in bad ways. And you will be influenced by people in good and bad ways. Bottom line, when you choose what you choose to see the world. Okay.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next up is Teresa Gregory.
So Teresa Gregory, 319 East Spruce in Bellevue. I'm also the community campus coordinator and work with the GSA Club. What you've experienced tonight is a powerful outing. When people like us, sometimes my wife and I say PLUs, we'll be walking through the mall and we'll say there's a PLU, and it means people like us, people that are lesbians. But tonight you have heard from people that are outing themselves, sometimes for the first time in public to you. That's a powerful gift that they give you. You know, there's something about needing to come out as a smaller minority within a larger community. So I just want you to recognize that's a hard thing for people to do, whether they're transgender, gender nonconforming, gay, lesbian, or straight. In my role at the community campus, we try to build here a sense of safety for everyone who comes through our doors. And every single day that we are open, transgender adults and students are here in this building. They're looking for a safe place, and here with the school district and all the partners here, we create that safe place. There are others in our community that want to build these safe places. There's a PFLAG chapter, Parents, Friends, and Families of Gays and Lesbians, for Haley is starting. The Advocates, Planned Parenthood, BCRD, many people want to contribute to making a safe environment. I think the way that you can help us begin to make that contribution even more real is to pass this policy, so that then those of us in the community can begin to dig in, find the good procedures, policies, ways of educating our community. What happened in Orlando can happen here. It just takes one person who refuses to be inclusive, refuses to welcome and be open, to cause a tragedy anywhere in our world. So I just think, especially in light of this and all of the celebrations that are happening in Pride Month in June, that we have the opportunity, a beautiful opportunity, for you to look at this policy, think about its benefits, and then begin to engage us in the community as partners so that we can create safe environments for everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next up is Michael Beck.
Chairman, excuse me, Chairman Benyon, District Trustees, Dr. Holmes, District staff, and fellow citizens, good evening. I am here tonight regarding the District's draft policy 502.12, transgender and gender nonconforming students. Last Thursday, I submitted to the clerk of the board temporary position statement from the American College of Pediatricians to be distributed to the trustees. I hope and trust that you've received that. This position statement is titled, Gender Ideology Harms Children. The arguments in favor of transgender policies here in Blaine County and across the country, as we've just heard, seem to be focused on the safety of the child, tolerance and acceptance, inclusiveness, and even the civil rights. Opponents of these policies are characterized as being against all of the above. However, there is another side to this issue that isn't getting much consideration in this debate, and that is the scientifically based medical standard of care for children suffering from gender dysphoria, GD. It is clear, after reading the American College of Pediatricians position statement, that a promotion and adoption of transgender policies represents a scientifically baseless standard of care for children with GD, and that this approach is dangerous and harmful to our children's physical, emotional, and mental health. Given this information from the American College of Pediatricians, I urge the trustees to be true advocates of and for our children's health and well-being, and to reject draft policy 502.12. If the trustees are not ready to reject this policy outright, then the prudent thing to do would be to table this issue to allow more time to consider this important medical information once the full statement is issued by the American College of Pediatricians later this summer. To the public, I urge you to visit the college's website, acpeds.org. The College Speaks, Position Statements of the College, where you can access this position statement in order to educate yourselves on the scientific and medical aspects of this very important issue. Let me close with this quote from the position statement. The American College of Pediatricians urges educators and legislators to reject all policies that condition children to accept as normal a life of chemical and surgical impersonation of the opposite sex. Facts, not ideology, determine reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Next up is Ashton Wilson.
Good evening. First off, I applaud the district for opening this conversation. I think it's an important one. I'm here as a citizen of Blaine County and a professional in the youth development industry. I pride myself in having spent my entire working career working with youth in diverse communities all across this country. It's been a short career, but I've enjoyed it. I'm really invested in the success of youth in this community, and I'm a firm believer, as I'm sure many of you are, that students who feel comfortable and supported oftentimes grow to become productive members of society. I've worked alongside many of them, and I employ some of them in my current job, and I get to work with a lot of them before they become those productive members of society. I think that the comfort and support that we demonstrate needs to be a foundation for learning here in this community. And I have faith that as a community we can continue to learn how to steer our district towards acceptance and understanding of all students, regardless of their choices in life and the way that they come into this world. I'm an advocate and I support this policy. Thanks for listening.
All right, thank you for your comment. Next up is Stephanie Brown.
Thank you.
superintendent, school administrators, board members, teachers, and parents, thank you very much for the privilege of speaking to you tonight regarding the transgender policy at Blaine County Public Schools. To begin with, one thing we can all agree on, regardless of our position that we take on the transgender policy, is the safety and care of the children of Blaine County. It kind of scares me to think about how divisive this could be, because really, no matter, every single person sitting at this podium cares for kids. And that is pretty beautiful. It's been really neat to be a part of this board meeting and see that. I think it's important to realize that we are all on the same page when it comes to our desire to respect, protect, and encourage each and every child that comes through our school system. I wrote a letter dated February 25th, 2016 to the superintendent and to each of you board members. I don't know if you remember getting it, but it stated my position on this issue. So I'm just going to make it simple tonight rather than restate that. Tonight, I'm simply stating and standing up as a citizen and community member of Blaine County to voice my disagreement with any policy that would make our sports teams, locker rooms, and bathrooms co-ed. My hope is that although we may be divided on this issue, we will be united on coming together in a civil and productive discourse regarding this issue. Respectfully, Stephanie Brown.
Thank you for your comments. Next up, Ron Brown.
My name is Ron Brown, and I live at Coyote Bluff Drive in Haley, and I want to speak in regards to the transgender policy for restrooms and locker rooms. And I'm asking that the Board of Trustees consider the rights of all Blaine County students, parents, teachers, staff, and campus visitors. And what are those rights? Well, the following are a few excerpts from the Alliance Defending Freedom in an article issued in May 2016. Students have the fundamental right to bodily privacy. That right is violated when students, including kindergartners as young as 5 years old, are forced into situations where members of the opposite sex may view their partially or fully unclothed bodies. As the Ninth Circuit has recognized, shielding one's unclothed figure from the view of strangers, particularly strangers of the opposite sex, is impelled by elementary self-respect and personal dignity. Mitchenfelder versus Sumner. So any policy allowing boys or girls to use restrooms, showers, or changing rooms designated for the opposite sex would violate this basic right. Another excerpt. Excuse me. Another excerpt. Courts have found that even prisoners have the right to use restrooms and changing areas without regular exposure to viewers of the opposite sex. Airy versus Robinson. Students possess far more robust legal protections and are obviously entitled to greater privacy rights than prisoners. School districts quite simply must ensure that students entrusted to their care may use restrooms and locker rooms without fear of exposure to the opposite sex. The article concludes with this statement: allowing students to use opposite-sex restrooms and locker rooms would seriously endanger students' privacy and safety, undermine parental authority, violate religious students' free exercise rights, and severely impair an environment conducive to learning. These dangers are so obvious that a school district allowing such activity would clearly expose itself to tort liability. Consequently, school districts should reject policies that force students to share restrooms and locker rooms with members of the opposite sex. I encourage the Board of Trustees to carefully consider the rights of all Blaine County residents in shaping policy.
Thank you for your comment. All right. Pamela, did you want to go in this section or the next section? Next one, please. Okay, I believe that concludes all of them for this section then.
Hi, my name is Michelle Barrow, and I have two daughters who went through all Blaine County School Districts K through 12. They graduated from the Wood River High School. I have a son who's 15. He went to Haley Elementary 4th and 5th. He went to the middle school 6th, and he's now at the Sage School. And I have a daughter that just went through Alturas, and she's going into the middle school. She's 11. As I considered what I wanted to say to you today, I understand that you represent me and all of the parents of children in the school district. I completely agree with the Secretary of Department of Education when he said, and it's Mr. John B. King, we must ensure that our young people know that whoever they are or wherever they come from, they have the opportunity to get a great education in an environment free from discrimination, harassment, and violence. I have researched some of the ways other school districts have dealt with facilitating their transgender students and what the Department of Education recommends. And I believe we need to have a third bathroom and locker room facility for our students who identify as another gender than their sexual orientation. These third rooms should be either single rooms or rooms equipped with single stalls and changing rooms. I am certain if we don't do anything to help these transgender students and just have them in the traditional male-female bathrooms and locker rooms. For example, we have a young woman who identifies as a young man go into the traditional boys' bathroom and locker room. The potential for bullying, harassment, and discrimination will be worse than if he stayed in his own anatomical bathroom and changing area. I believe lawsuits are coming on both sides, and with a well-thought-out plan, our district can spend the money on protecting our LGBTIA and heterosexual students, all of our students. All of us would rather see school district money, our money, put to safety facility changes instead of lawsuits. If we do not have separate facilities, i.e. a third bathroom or locker room, because of the potential for harassment and violence, because of different beliefs and what could be called mob mentality, like what we have seen in a school district near us, in which at times even innocent children can get caught up in the mob hatred, we will have to have someone policing the locker room and bathroom facilities when they are open for use. Who will do this? Teachers, paraprofessionals, police officers? Who will we pay and how will we pay to do that? In this way, the third and other facilities will also save the school district money. Let's pay now in safety facility changes so we don't pay later in lawsuits. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right. We'll go ahead and move forward now with the superintendent report by Dr. Holmes.
Okay. All right, just something very brief tonight since we knew it was going to be a long meeting. I brought you the results from the employee engagement survey. So you received the complete results on that early, so I'll just summarize quickly. This is the third year that this survey has been given. However, this was the first year that the probe, there was a strong sense of teamwork and cooperation among Board of Trustees was included in this survey, and that was at the direction of the board last spring when we reviewed results last spring. I'm very happy to report that the student staff engagement is up at both the building and department level for the second year in a row. And I think that bodes well, especially for our focus on working with principals and buildings to help them own the problems and solutions within their building and to have equal voice in how they use their staff, how they use their resources, how they solve the problems presented in their buildings. I think that helps speak to building empowerment, which we've been working on. At the district level, there is no change overall in how things have worked. It was significantly how staff are engaged is what I should say. It was significantly impacted by the score or the response to the probe. There's a strong sense of teamwork and cooperation among the board. But I did want to note two areas where there is shown improvement at the district level, and that is in the area of there is a vision district-wide for and that the second area is that teachers and staff members feel comfortable sharing ideas and opinions to improve the organization with district leadership. So with that, we will continue to work on this, and I think Trustee Binion actually has some things to say about the board probe.
Yeah, I had asked Amanda LaChance, our board clerk, to go ahead and email each of us a copy of the self-evaluation of the board, and I think I'd like to try and get that back. Do you remember the date off the top of your head, Amanda? I think by the 20th of June. That way we can have it compiled, ready to discuss a little bit at our regular July meeting. That way we can see as a board where we feel we're at, where we need to go for improvement, and can kind of base our summer retreat off of some of those things to help us as a board improve in our functions. So, with that, Trustee Corker?
Okay, yeah, I just looked at this very carefully, and I just kind of deconstructed it and had some comments on this. And I just wanted to say, first of all, I want to thank the teachers and others who answered these questions, because I know that they've been surveyed over ad nauseum, but this, along with other staff engagement surveys, really offer valuable information to our board regarding the health of our school districts and how building leadership and district leadership is viewed by staff. Teachers are the ones who have direct contact with our children every day. They know our children, our schools, and our district leadership best. Therefore, their input is critical for the board and our community to be able to assess how our schools and our district leadership is performing. So I just looked through, and I was looking at our scores, and I am looking at them primarily through the lens of certified employees. And so some of the statements on here, I wanted to question and ask if those are acceptable to district leadership. So the first one was, I feel district leadership motivates me to contribute more than what is expected of me. And that result was 57% of certified employees. It goes on, I trust the information I receive from district leadership. Only 50% from certified employees answered that as being agreed. I feel valued for the work I do in this district. 63% of certified employees. District leadership makes decisions for students based on sound educational practices and data. 59%. I feel comfortable sharing ideas and opinions with the district to improve the organization. That was 50%. I think that that's shocking to me. There is a strong sense of teamwork and cooperation in the district. 41%. District leadership has a clear vision of future goals and educational directions of its schools. 52%. District leadership clearly explains why key decisions are made. 50%. I look at these scores, and I think that they are on the top of the list of my concerns about what's going on in the district and what teachers especially are observing on the front lines. And I wanted to get district leadership's feeling about what those numbers represent.
Well, first of all, I'd have to correct the numbers you just listed, because you need to add the strongly agreed and agreed together, not just give the agreed number. So none of those numbers are correct that were just stated. And as I said before, I went through each of these items and looked at them for any statistical change, and there is not much change at the district level. The two areas that did change statistically significant way, I've mentioned those already, and that is the vision and feeling comfortable in sharing their ideas and opinions for improving the district overall. I think the telling point is district leadership. We had this debate last year, but district leadership is very hard to separate from the board. I think the telling point is how the board was rated on this, and I agree. The community and the staff see the conflict among the various trustees and sometimes with the administration. And I think that has to be addressed, and I think that's what Chairman Binion is talking about, is how do we start to address that in our summer retreat.
Okay, so I'm just going to go back. Just give me a second here, because I had thought I had added that up correctly. So I'm just going to go on and make sure that I didn't. It's somewhere here. I don't have access to a printout. So just 1 second, because I had thought that I had added that up correctly in terms of the certified staff.
Maybe you're right. I'm looking at the overall, all staff responding. I don't have the certified in front of me. And I was seeing the numbers you were reading, but I was seeing them only as the agreed numbers, not the strongly agreed and agreed. So.
Right. So this is, what I'm looking at is what they usually give us as being the positive side of the ledger, which is strongly agree and agree.
Correct.
And I looked at it from certified employees, and the grades were consistently in the 50s. It went down to 41% in terms of strong sense of teamwork and cooperation in the district. And I am looking at this, and it's not. I'm stunned at how low these scores are. I don't think any organization can sustain itself for long with this lack of confidence in the leadership, and it certainly cannot flourish. And I expect last year, I think I was, and a lot of people were very surprised at how low the scores were then. And this is a continuation of low scores. There hasn't really, there hasn't been improvement. So I'm not thrilled about this. And scores should show widespread support for that. And I expect that out of our district leadership. So this does not show that to me, and I want this to be taken very seriously. Scores in the 80s certainly are the signs of a healthy school district, where teachers feel empowered and able to do their jobs, valued for their work, comfortable sharing ideas, and these are so far below that. So I think it has to be, it can't be buried. It needs to be talked about. And certainly I understand about the board. I do understand. I think it's obvious to everyone that the board, there's a difference of opinion on what a board member's job is, whether our job is to represent the constituents or to approve the administration agenda, even if that varies from information that we've gotten from basically from public, from surveys and things like that. So I understand that there's a divergence there. That makes sense to me. The rest of this it's not. It needs to improve. And I don't know what the plan is.
I would agree wholeheartedly that it needs to approve. And my feeling is that we as a board and an administration team take ownership of that together, that it's not us versus them, that it's a we problem, and that we need to work through together on how to solve that. And we as a team need to come together and show that collaboration, why decisions are made, so people can have that confidence, our staff members can have that confidence and enjoy their working environment. I think that us all, on all of us as board members, as well as the superintendent, assistant superintendent, that we as a team work on that together.
We need to be able to ask our leader to implement our values. And the numbers that come back on this survey show that that's not happening as far as the teachers go. We cannot take responsibility for the performance of the superintendent. She has to take responsibility for that performance. We have to take responsibility for directing her to that performance. But once that's been directed, I mean, I personally think every single teacher should feel comfortable sharing ideas and opinions with the district to improve the organization. But that's not my job to impart that. It's the administrator's job to impart that. So there is a delineation, and there is a difference there that we need to make sure that each person is doing their job adequately. And to kind of say this is a group problem, well, I'm not the superintendent. You're not the superintendent. We need to have the trust that that the leadership that she is showing to our staff through, and we get the feedback from surveys like this, is up to our standards and up to the standards of the people who elect us and our community and our teachers. And that's our job. So it is a different job than the superintendent.
And I would agree that we have different roles and responsibilities as superintendent and as board members. But I feel that the lack of trust in that administrative team, the board has a lot to play into that. I'm not willing to solely hang our superintendent out to dry with these responses. I'm sorry. I feel it comes down to us as a board and our dysfunction on how we've been acting and behaving in our meetings, in public, in our comments. And I think a lot of that distrust comes to us as a board.
Right. Yeah, and I think, I think that there's questioning is respectful, but it is necessary, and it shouldn't be regarded as disrespectful, the fact that we question. So, when I talk about trust, when I see these kind of answers come back, I see a lack of trust on the part of our staff in the confidence of our chosen leadership. And that's what concerns me.
Do you see
I
that?
want to be proven wrong on that.
Just for a clarification, do you see that solely on the superintendent, or do you see that on the board as well?
I'm seeing it in this survey, and I also saw it on the survey that we had done in December. I saw it as being on the superintendent. So that's an issue, because what we do is, our number one job is to hire someone who has the values of our community down pat and is able to implement them and be able to protect the board and to implement the board's vision, which comes from the community. So it all comes from the community, and then we get the back kind of draft on how is she doing in a survey like this from the people who are on the front line, and it gets dismissed as being a group problem that is the board's problem, and so therefore there's no accountability, and that concerns me deeply. Everybody has accountability, for sure. I have accountability for representing the people that I hear from. Same with you. Our superintendent has a responsibility to implement the vision of the board as the community tells us what that vision is. So when that comes back to us, that we have employees that don't feel that they are comfortable sharing ideas, or they feel valued, or they trust the information that they receive, or they're motivated, that's something that is my responsibility to question. And that's what I'm doing now. I know that that's, I've received a lot of pushback from questioning, but I receive my marching orders from the owners of this district. I don't receive my marching orders from the administration if they feel under the gun about that kind of questioning. I'm sorry for that, but that's my job.
All right. Any further comments, questions?
I would just like to follow up with Trustee Corker's comments that, about our board and the superintendent. We've done so many surveys. We hear back from our community members, but I've also been seeing a lack of, some of the board members, I feel like we're not listening to the community and saying, we hear you, we want to listen, and we want to take charge of these changes that you guys want to make. And when we're not doing so, it's like saying we do not value your opinion. And, what's the point of doing all these surveys or getting all this feedback if we're not going to take it into consideration? And then it feels like we are being ruled by the administration. Our actions, are, well, that's what the administration says. The board is just rubber stamping that. I feel like we do need to question things. We need to listen to our community. These are our constituents. They are voting us into place. And if we're not listening to them, what are we doing here if we're just rubber stamping?
Okay. Thank you for your
and I'd like to add one more comment. I guess a really good example of that happened tonight at the meeting, where we had hundreds and hundreds of people weigh in, and it was not integrated in an actionable way. And so I'm wondering whose values are running the district, and that's my big question we need to be doing our jobs, and that is protecting the people of this community who entrust us with this job. There was one other thing that I was going to say. As I think that there's a very good reason for people to feel that the board has a schism in it. I personally I feel like there is a two-tier board for sure. I am not privy, I know, to some information that is out there that other board members are privy to, and that's not allowing for me to do my job. And I think people can see that. And so that has to, we have to look at that in terms of the answer to that question are people feeling what's really happening here? Because that is understandable, So I think that all of that has to be taken into account. We should be collaborating. We should be open. The public business must be done in public. It must not be done in one-on-one meetings. And people are feeling that they may not be seeing the whole picture. I know that I feel, even as a board member, that I'm not seeing the whole picture, and that's not where we want to be as a board.
All right. We'll go ahead and move forward if there's no further comments with the board chair report. And do you have Mr. Ray's report?
We had graduations at all three high schools, starting with Silver Creek on Friday at the community campus. They had 10 graduating students, and Cary High School held their graduation ceremony on Well, it looks like it says here June 3rd, Cary held their senior graduation ceremony. Seems early. And then June 10th, the students with no D's or F's went on their annual trip to Lagoon. Wood River graduation took place on June 10th.
All right. Okay. The next item is the response to administrator contract inquiry, and that email, as well as further documentation on the administrative salary schedule, is in your packets. Are there any questions or comments?
Are you talking about the legal opinion that was given by Amy White?
Yes.
Okay. I do have some comments about that. I had asked originally, I was the one that had asked for the legal opinion, and it was because this is a somewhat new thing. In the past, all of the administrators' contracts had been, we didn't even know how much they were worth. We didn't know what the benefits were really. I mean, we could have done a kind of digging and found that out, but it wasn't stated in the meeting. So all of a sudden, it was when I questioned whether this was going to be something that we were to be locked into, and it would be protected from any kind of discussion about the budget, which everything else was on the table. I said it's only fair that this is on the table. I got an answer from the assistant superintendent who said that these are property rights, and there were, kind of veiled, strong suspicion statements that if we even talked about them, that they were worth $1,100 a month, and if we even talked about them, that we were going to have a lot of animosity on our hands. At that point, the superintendent also weighed in and said something about the administration wouldn't trust us at that point. So there was a lot of pressure not to look at administrative, not even to look at it, let alone, make any decisions, but just not even to be able to see what was going on. So I asked for a decision, a legal decision, as to whether if we voted to extend those contracts in April, whether that would bind us, and it logically seemed like of course it would. I asked the question anyway because I wanted to know, because things were moving fast and I just wanted to have reassurance for that. I wasn't given that answer in, it was supposed to be, somebody decided that Amy White, the ISBA recommended lawyer, was the person that was going to answer that question. In the May meetings, this is a whole month later, I asked, a couple of times, where's the legal opinion? Finally, in the May meeting, I was given the answer that, she's busy and that she'll get to it, quote unquote. She'll get to it when she gets to it. But I had heard also that she was advising administrators that there had been a meeting. I might be wrong on that, but that's what I had heard, and I'd like to hear confirmation about that. Did that happen?
There was no meeting with administrators and Amy White. John Blackman did contact her at your request to get this information.
Okay, and so then he took her information and disseminated it to administrators?
No. It's been disseminated through the board packet.
So there was, I don't understand that, because I had heard that there was a meeting with administrators to get a legal opinion about what was that particular question, whether they had property rights. Did that meeting, that meeting happened with John Blackman? Did not happen with John Blackman?
No.
So there was no meeting with administrators regarding property rights with anyone?
No.
Okay. Not with Amy White, not with anyone.
There was a conversation between Mr. Blackman and Amy White as he inquired about the information that you were seeking, but there was not a meeting of administrators. They're all sitting here looking at me like, what in the world are we talking about?
That That information that Mr. Blackman got was never relayed to me. I was the one that originally asked for it. It was eventually, just last week, we received a letter from Amy White, and basically, as far as I'm understanding it, and I'm no lawyer, so I don't pretend to understand exactly if this was what was being said, but the gist that I got was that if you're in a contract, you can't break that contract, which was obvious to me. That wasn't even in question. So it seemed kind of redundant. So the answer should have been yes, this can be on the table for discussion unless you have voted to reinstate these contracts. And we were under heavy pressure to reinstate the contracts in April, which, as I understand it now, would have taken those off the table for any kind of discussion during the budget period. And knowing that those administrative contracts had been a concern of the public and of teachers or whoever put dots on the board since the fall, that seemed to be something that was pretty high up on the list to get a clear answer from. But I didn't, I didn't get an answer until yesterday. I don't feel that I have representation, legal representation, until maybe the 11th hour. And when it comes back in a way that is really not particularly clear, or helpful in terms of the decisions that I need to make. So what I guess I'm trying to say is that this whole Amy White decision was problematic for me. It was not direct. I was not given it in a timely fashion, and so I think that needs to be improved.
All right. Any further comments, questions?
I also wanted to know one other thing. Were any other board members provided the answer from Amy White before last week? Sean, were you given that information? Rob, were you given that information? I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here.
The first time I saw this document was in our agenda planning meeting, when we said we would put it on the agenda.
Okay. And the first time that Gwen Carroll saw the letter was
shortly before the agenda planning meeting. I don't remember the exact date, but shortly before the agenda planning meeting.
Okay. If you would please pass this along, that would just be helpful to have it at the same point as everyone else has it, would be helpful.
All right. The next item on the agenda is the announcements, and the only one we have is Tuesday, July 12th at 6 will be our annual meeting and our regular July board meeting. There is also item D, the ISBA Summer Leadership Institute. It's bookmarked for your reference. Amanda has not heard back from any of the members of the board if they're going to be attending. It's a good crash course in boardsmanship, on how to function as a board, on different things. I would encourage those who can to attend this workshop. So, with that, we'll
Sean?
Go ahead.
May I ask a question here on that? I would appreciate it if all board members there could be collaboration with board members on the board retreats and the workshops, because that would be, I think that would create a sense of buy-in and teamwork, and the fact that we all have a voice on what we're needing and learning. Even if you don't disagree with it, that's fine, just so long as we all get a voice on that and we can all, have something that we think is of benefit.
And just for clarification, you're talking about our boards, not this ISBA work session that is being presented or discussed, correct?
Right. I know that there's the summer one as well, and that one I questioned it because I know that there was a lot of open meeting law stuff, and then that didn't seem to affect our board a whole lot, so I questioned the value of that. I think that possibly that might not be a good use of our resources given our experience.
All right. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on now with the discussion items. Item A, continuing business, engineering and design technology, instructional tools and material adoption, 2016 to 2022. Ms. Angie Martinez.
Yeah, I'm just here available for any questions prior to your consent agenda in hopes of us being approved to get those materials in time for school to start. Get all those materials over the summer for our
We saw the
engineering and
presentation
technical.
last month.
I was going to say your presentation was
Yeah.
pretty thorough
Okay, great.
last month.
Any questions?
Questions, comments? All right, we'll go ahead and jump to item B. Number 1, BCRD winter trail usage, and turn the time over to Mr. Jim Keating.
Good evening.
Evening.
I'm Jim Keating. I'm the Executive Director of the Blaine County Rec District. Thank you guys for having us and having me. I'm here tonight to request consideration of an extension of a 2-year contract that has been in place for the last 4 years to continue Croydon Nordic operations on a parcel of school district property that's right out Croy Canyon Road. A little bit of history just to start off with. We started working and partnering with the school district and providing Croy Nordic along with 8 other parcels in that area about 4 years ago. Since then, and also partnering with the Sun Valley Ski Education Foundation, we're experiencing about 8,000 to 9,000 skier days a year in the Croy Nordic operation. And it's really become a vital piece, I think, of the entire cross-country skiing operation that the Rec District works with the community and different partners on throughout the valley. It's also a key place in connecting to youth and children and sharing the sport with those youth and children and the South Valley community in general. We hope to continue that operation going forward for another 2 years. Really appreciate any feedback. But largely, I think the feedback has been very strong. It really helps in a year like last year where we had a little bit of snow to aid things along. But we also saw, a strong presence in the 3 years before this last year where we had our kind of best snow year. So given that, I wanted to request for consideration an extension of that contract and take any questions or input from the board.
Any questions, comments from the board? I think it's been a very excellent partnership and one that I'm pleased that we're in. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all.
So brings us to item number 2, Blaine County School District draft policies. Draft policy 901.9, service animals. 604.8, advancement requirements. Policy 502.12, transgender and gender nonconforming students. And draft policy 604.9, protection of student data. These have been in your packets. Is there any questions or comments?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment. So this is Trustee Porker. I have just looked up because I completely respect the decision, the comments on both sides of this issue. I was very concerned, especially by Mike Beck's comment about scientific evidence, that this was the wrong way to go. So I have looked it up, and I just wanted to tell you that the American College of Pediatricians, which is called ACP, it utilizes, this is from a site, utilizes the totally convincing slogan, Best for Children, has used a new position statement claiming that respecting transgender children's identities causes them harm, and conservative groups are already latching on to it. If the claim sounds familiar, it's because it's a claim completely refuted by all available scientific evidence. It's also because the ACP is not a legitimate medical organization. Its name is designed to be mistaken for the American Academy of Pediatrics, which is a national organization with some 60,000 members. The ACP, by contrast, is estimated to have more than 200 members, and it has been designated as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center for its anti-LGBT positions. It goes on to say that the American Academy of Pediatrics, which is the legitimate organization, looks like they refute the ACP's statement. So that's because I was very concerned about that. So that clarified something for me there.
So, Liz, what are you saying there? That your research showed that this is really a small group spreading misinformation and doing.
It says hate group masquerading as pediatricians attacks transgender use. It's on several sites. It's on several. I think one of them was Huffington Post. So it all depends on the source. I mean, if you trust the source, Huffington Post. If you trust, it certainly sounded that it was very concerning to me that sounded like a major pediatrician group was saying that this was very, very harmful. I certainly would be concerned about that. As I said, I'm not concerned about that right now.
Further questions, comments?
I got
Bustos.
questions. As far as the transgender and gender nonconforming students policy, I don't know, is not coming to mind about the actual policy, but, I know that there's some concerns about the children changing in, either the bathrooms that they identify to. I guess I just kind of want to explore that a little bit further, making sure that these students, maybe as one parent suggested, have that additional bathroom where students, regardless of what they were born as, could go into that one particular bathroom to be able to change in private, and not provide discomfort to other students. I know that it's a sensitive issue, and I feel like we need to have something maybe more firm in place before we approve this policy, just because it's so sensitive, and I know that there's a lot of issues to be looked at on both sides, and maybe we could even potentially table this actual policy to further discussion on it.
So you're suggesting we don't make a decision on it at the next meeting?
Yeah, maybe table that just to make sure that we've come up with a well-rounded policy for them. Not something that's we've rushed through, which I know that there's a lot of policies that we're trying to put through, and this one just seems especially sensitive. So that maybe we could just table this one and discuss it further.
I personally need to do more research. I don't know enough about this subject in this area. I have no expertise there whatsoever. So I'm feeling really personally uninformed. So I could use some breathing room on this one just to have some personal understanding, and then probably do some due diligence with constituency as well. I mean, we had a pretty strong outpouring of positive emotion for this policy. But at the same time, I feel like haste in this case could be problematic, and I think that we need to do good due diligence on it and make sure that it's right, because it does have to exist. It does need to be addressed, and it is something that needs to be considered. It's just the matter and fashion that it is. I mean, that's where I'm coming from on it.
Yeah, definitely more discussion. I think is warranted.
Mr. Blackman, would you mind giving the history on the policy?
Well, the Idaho Athletic Association put forth a policy that was to be adopted. Eberhard and Mackey put that on their high priority list. You guys passed that a few months back. This follows in line with that policy. On the tail of that just takes it outside of just the realm of athletics and into the classroom. The committee looked at this one for quite a while, but again, policy set by the board. I'd hate to see this, again, this volleying back and forth from policy committee to the board. If the board wants something different, the board needs to sit down and figure out what they want. There's just no purpose of the policy committee doing all
I'm
this
not looking
work.
at volleying this at all. I just want to, I want to
And I'm
study
fine with
it.
that. I would say
Study.
that the board should do exactly what you're talking about and look at it very closely. I totally agree. I don't disagree with that. But it just doesn't make sense to have other people look at it and then basically you have a different view of it. It should be your view of it. You're the ones that set that policy. You're the ones that make that final decision, and you're the ones that will, live with the outcome of that. So I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem with that. I don't think the committee does either.
Yeah, I don't see bouncing it back to committee at all. I see that.
But that's where it came from, is that you passed the athletic one. This one came from that one. It was on the docket. We got a lot of input from folks, but this didn't happen overnight. This has been looked at for several months. So the recommendations in front of you, and then you guys are free to make whatever recommendations or further changes you need to make.
Can I make a comment?
Go ahead, Trustee Corker.
Okay. So I trust the job that our policy committee has done. I know that they knew that this was a controversial issue. It's all around the country now. This is from what I understand, this is a pretty standard response to this policy. As I said, when I heard one of our constituents giving some evidence that this may be harmful, I was concerned. I've looked that up. It does not concern me in the least anymore. And in fact, the more legitimate organization has said that there's no harmful effects of this. So I'm ready to make a motion to pass this policy. I don't feel that anything will be added by spending more time. I think our policy committee has done a fine job.
I don't believe it's before you for passage tonight.
No,
we're just reviewing.
It's just for your consideration.
Tonight.
Are these things for our first touch?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay, no problem. Yeah. That's fine. That's fine.
From my understanding, what Trustee Bustos and what Trustee Clayton were getting at is maybe, and not instead of putting them on in the July meeting, delaying it so we have board members have proper time to do their due diligence to understand the full implications of the policy and have more discussions around the policy, and not putting it for passage on the July meeting is what I'm understanding was said by Trustee Bustos and Clayton.
I can do my homework between now and then too.
Yeah, we could potentially be ready. I thought that.
I just want to do homework. I don't feel I'm prepared on this one right now. So.
And you won't be
not even to
prepared by
discuss
July,
properly.
or is that so you want to be prepared by August? Is that what I'm hearing? I'm not.
I think I can be ready by July. I just want to do. I want to do homework. I want to understand. I got to dig into it.
Okay.
And it wasn't supposed to be voted for tonight. Voted on tonight anyway, as far as I'm understanding. So that's all normal.
That is correct. So.
Okay.
All right. If there's no further questions, comments on the draft policies, we'll go ahead and move to the next section of our public comment. And the only one that I have is Ms. Pamela Plowman.
Thanks for taking my comment. Pamela Plowman, 111 East Myrtle Street in Haley. I wanted to make a comment on the policy on protection of student data. I'm really interested in this because of how it affects the high-stakes testing in Common Core, so I've done a lot of research in it. And so as I was reading the policy, as it has been written by the policy committee, I really couldn't find, I pulled out, there's other laws that already exist about this. One is the FERPA, which was referenced in the policy, It's Family Education Rights and Privacy Act of 1974. And so that, in 1974, here's a quote from that act. The right to provide written consent before the educational institution discloses personally identifiable information from the student's education records. Then in 1998, which wasn't referenced in the policy, there was COPA, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act of 1998. And one quote from that, the school district must obtain verifiable parental consent prior to any collection, use, and/or disclosure of personal information from children. Parents' consent is required for the collection, use, or disclosure of such information, and the operator, BCSD in this case, will not collect, use, or disclose any personal information from the child if the parent does not provide such consent. And then just this last year in Idaho legislature, a whole new chapter was added to Title 33 called Chapter 56, and this act requires an annual notice of parental rights to be distributed to parents and guardians, including that parents may withdraw their children from an activity or class. So each one of these includes within it a protection of parental rights to consent ahead of use. And this student data protection policy, it has all the other things that they have, but it doesn't contain those which are very important components of these laws. So I'm not sure why there's a policy on protection of student data, because it's already nationally and statewide they exist. So I would suggest that we just say we follow the laws of the nation and the state, and actually the 14th Amendment too, and then maybe list what those would include. But it's really critical to have the parental consent for online student data collection, which includes a lot of the stuff that's being collected now for the tests. And I have heard one rumor that it was considered that when parents sign their children up for school, they automatically consent to these tests, and I don't think that's sufficient. So I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't overlooked in creating this policy. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your comment. Okay, that moves us forward to the action portion of the agenda, and we have under item A, the consent agenda, consideration of the minutes regular board meeting May 10th, 2016, special meeting of the board May 31st, 2016. 2, permission to advertise for sale of buses. 3, certification of resident transfer of Blaine County students to Minidoka County, payment of tuition and/or transportation. 4, acceptance of monthly financial report, payment of bills, consideration of student teaching placement under the direction of Kirsten Flavin, kindergarten teacher at Hemingway Elementary, and consideration of personnel exiting and entering. And Ms. LaChance, if you would please share those.
Classified staff exiting: Virginia Long, paraprofessional, Voice 2, retiring August 31st, 2016. Charles Goff, maintenance mechanic, maintenance, retiring August 31st. Lester Wilson, maintenance mechanic, maintenance, retiring August 31st, 2016. Janice Gillette, special ed paraprofessional, Wood River Middle School. Kaylin Dennis, classified staff recommending for hire: Kaylin Dennis, child care paraprofessional, Silver Creek, it's late, Silver Creek High School. Classified coaching staff exiting: Brady Campbell, assistant cross-country coach, Wood River High School, coach only. Richard Scott, boys 7th grade basketball, Wood River Middle School, coach only. Dan Vandenhavel, boys head JV soccer coach, Wood River High School, coach only. Rhett Jones, head JV football coach, Wood River High School, coach only. Janice Gillette, head 7th and 8th grade girls soccer coach, Wood River Middle School, coach only. David Kistler, boys head freshman basketball coach, Wood River High School. Classified coaching staff recommending for hire: Matt Duthit, assistant JV football coach, Wood River High School. Rhett Jones, assistant 7th grade football coach, Wood River Middle School. Richard Scott, assistant cross country coach, Wood River High School. Juan Salamanca, sorry, I'm going to butcher these names, boys head JV soccer coach, Wood River High School. Certified staff exiting, Jane Ulrich, .57 FTE Latin teacher, Wood River High School. Jacqueline Jones, 1.0 FTE DI Spanish teacher at Alturas, retiring August 31st. Janine Allman, 1.0 FTE science teacher, Wood River Middle School, retiring August 31st, 2016. Andrew Martone, 1.0 FTE technology education teacher, Wood River Middle School, limited contract, remainder of 2015-16 school year. Karen Picoult, 1.0 FTE English teacher, Wood River High School, limited one-year contract. Sam Schrader, 1.0 FTE technology education teacher, Wood River High School. Recommending for hire, Daniela Anguita, 1.0 FTE SNL Spanish New Language teacher at Alturas. Laura Barnhart, 1.0 FTE DI English kindergarten teacher at Alturas. Jamie Delgado, 0.4 FTE school psychologist district-wide. Nick Pettinger, 1.0 FTE school psychologist district-wide. Janice Gillette, 1.0 FTE special education base teacher at Haley Elementary. Nora Parkinson, 1.0 FTE third grade teacher at Haley. Abigail Menke, 1.0 FTE early childhood developmental preschool teacher at Haley. Ellen Nasvik, 1.0 FTE DI social studies teacher at Wood River Middle School. Amanda Grafe, 1.0 FTE computer information tech teacher at Wood River Middle School. Brett Broderick, 1.0 FTE English language arts teacher at Wood River High School. Deborah Greenberg, 1.0 FTE counselor at Wood River High School.
All right, and that is the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion to accept the consent.
The consent agenda.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next up is item B, consideration of recommended engineering and design technology, instructional tools and materials adoption. I'll go ahead and call for a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion to pass, to accept both of the items up for adoption.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item C, consideration of Blaine County School District draft policies 507.1, restraint and seclusion, financial policy purchasing, financial policy procurement under a federal award, financial policy public works construction, financial policy contracted educational services, financial policy service contracts, financial policy allowable costs for federal programs. I'll call for a motion at this time.
I move to approve the draft policies as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And item D, as amended, ability of a board member to access Elaine Eberhardt Mackey. And Trustee Corker, I'll go ahead and turn the time over to you.
Okay. I strongly feel that this person is the person, after all the difficulties we've had in terms of legal opinions and prosecuting attorneys getting involved and, that whole situation. I think that we need someone who is beyond reproach. And I'll just read a little bit on her. And as a matter of fact, Adam King has gone to her in the past as being the authority in the state of Idaho. And I know that we've used some of her firm's templates for some of our policies in the past, so this is not an unknown quantity. She is a founding member of Eberhard or Mackey and Tappan. I have never personally spoken to this person. I just know her by reputation. She graduated from the University of Idaho College of Law in 1984, began her career as a Deputy Attorney General with the State of Idaho and in-house counsel to the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, the State Department of Education, and the State Board of Education, and related state agencies. She's dedicated her knowledge and skills to ensure that her school district clients receive comprehensive, quality advice and guidance every step of the way toward the best education Idaho can provide its kids. Her personal philosophy is that, quote, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of intervention. And I can relate to that one. And her goal is to help her clients do the right thing the first time around. I would like to have the opportunity to be able to directly use as a board member if I think that it reaches that level of wanting a professional opinion. I think that to be able to do my job as a board member in a professional way, the caliber of this person is the person that we should be using. If other board members feel differently, they can continue to use Adam King, they can use Amy White, but I would like to have this be a possibility. It has been in the past, and I would like to make sure that that is continued.
Okay, so is there a motion crafted with that?
I would like to make a motion to enable all board members to be able to have direct access to Elaine Eberhard or Mackey as board counsel for school district matters.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Any discussion? Trustee Corker, you have first opportunity.
Nope.
Trustee Bustos? Further discussion?
So I need to ask John a question. This Eberhard Mackey we do a lot of work with them.
Just policy.
Policy work.
We pay them for policy updates. That's
Okay.
it. Ms. Corker made a comment earlier that we denied her access. That's not true. We don't really use Eberhard Mackey other than for policy updates, sometimes for special ed because that's her specialty. But for the most part, we go to the ISBA because those are the legal services that you're given as a board. So we use the ISBA's attorney because we have hours of service that we don't pay for. So it just seems that
From ISBA.
From ISBA. So I've never used Eberhard Mackey for anything other than policy update.
And their fee is what? For
What
when
is it,
you
Mike?
use them?
I have no idea.
Does anybody know how much they cost?
Yeah, there's a.
I have no idea how much
There's a budget
they
line
cost.
item.
It's got to
for it.
be a lot less than we've paid overall.
I think that's an assumption. I think that's a fact we have to have.
Okay, so I will say if it's anywhere under $3.50 an hour, I would like to make this motion to use them. And also, I wanted to say, Rob, that Elaine Eberhard Mackey has provided decisions that Adam King passed off to her during several things that we had a few years ago having to do with leadership transitions that tangentially were about commercialization of software contracts. And she did I read her opinion, it was outstanding. It was completely apolitical, and it was, integrity. There was integrity there, and I could trust that level of expertise. And I also, think that there's a very high likelihood that if she had been our lawyer in the McKinstry situation, that we could have saved, again, this is conjecture, but I think it's based off of some strong evidence that I have, that we may have been able to save millions of dollars, and she would have given us top-notch advice. And so, at any rate, and yeah.
Well, those are assumptions, Liz. I'm not questioning the woman's capabilities. I think she sounds fantastic. I'm just trying to quantify what it would cost to have her, and then what are the rules of engagement that we have as a board with her if we were to approve this. Is it carte blanche? Do we put a cap on it? This is very free form and not very packaged well as far as the presentation. I appreciate where you want to go with it. I think it's great, but what are the parameters of this usage? We already have a guy in our employ. We actually voted him into our employ less than a year ago, and so there were other candidates on the table, and I actually can say that I didn't vote for the current lawyer that we have. So I'm hearing you on this one, but I was one of the ones who actually probably didn't pick him as favorable. So
Right.
I'm getting where you want to go with this. I just want to really qualify it and not just say, okay, we can use this. I mean, what you're asking is, can we use this guy or this woman?
Right.
Firm.
Yes, exactly.
You got to give it a little more. You got to give it a little more form. I think that's good form on our part.
Let's put a cap on it. Let's say if it's above $3.50 an hour, I will go back and and provide you with those numbers. But up to $3.50 an hour, I think that this is money well spent, and that's going to be part of my motion. The other thing is, in terms of an open checkbook to lawyers, our school district has had an open checkbook, and it's been Gwen Carroll and two other staff members, and I assume Sean, that had the open checkbook to be able to use Adam King services to any extent that they want. So if you want to put a cap and include that in this motion, I'd be happy to hear it. We don't have one as it exists right now.
I would actually appreciate you coming back with a more formal presentation on how you would like to see this move forward before I vote on it, because I feel like you're coming up with numbers and things kind of on the fly, and that's really not great form for us at this juncture. So I think that we should really have a little more solid proposal.
My question goes back to the RFP process that we have to get into contracts with our current attorney as well. Eberhardt Mackey did not go through that RFP process when we put it out for bid multiple times last year. They did not submit for that, to do that. And
neither did Amy White.
And I'm curious as to what the implications are with that. And Mike, if you could speak to that.
Yeah, state law does not require you to bid for services for architectural, attorneys, accountants, those types of things.
Okay, excellent. Good to
The
know.
reason we did the RFP last year was at the board request.
Okay. Good to know.
So
Excellent.
and I just wanted to point out that this, in the past, there was a lot of leeway in terms of who the board, each board member would be able to use, and in fact, staff members as well. And I was told I could use this one, that one. And the only reason that I'm putting it out there for Elaine Eberhardt or Mackey is because I think that now that it seems like it's for some reason it's, Adam is pulling in somebody from Holly Troxel, who, by the way, was the firm that was in charge during the McKinstry contract, where we had an energy-saving contract with no energy-saving clause. So that firm is now being pulled in and taking money away from education. And so I am trying to make sure that we get someone who is the highest caliber, who may cost a little bit more on an hourly basis, but ultimately could save us thousands, and in some cases that we've had direct experience with in the past, possibly millions. And so you get what you pay for sometimes, and this may be one of those cases. I'd like to make my motion. Anyway, I hear you, Rob.
Motion's been made. We're in seconded. We're in the discussion portion of that.
Okay. So
at this point in time, we'll go ahead and...
If you want to add to it, that's fine.
Yeah, at this point in time, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Nay.
Is Carol around still?
No.
She's not.
I'm neutral on this one. I really don't have a vote. I want more due diligence on this. I don't know how I act on that. Do I vote it down or abstain?
Put some parameters
Wait
on
a
it.
minute, let's explain to the board, this is her job.
Because it's too new. It's too new to me. It's just I don't have anything in front of me.
Put some parameters on it. You seem to be concerned about the price and the amount of hours. So possibly you want to say, not use not more than 4 hours a month, 2 hours a month.
See, and I don't want to be.
Not to exceed 350. I mean, something that seems reasonable to you.
That's
What
my.
happens is, just let me finish, please. What happens is that when we have substandard or legal counsel that ends up costing money from kids' education month after month, there's a real cost there that can completely, be a lot larger consideration than the little bit of detail that it might take to get some of these parameters iced. And we can do that, and yet we can still have parameters, and we can get this lawyer who is the best and make sure that we are acting professionally so that our community trusts us and trusts that our legal representation is not based on politics.
I get all that, Liz. I get all that. My point is that I just am like, it's the 9th hour. This gets thrown out there. There's no, I don't have a sense of urgency that we need to have this person tomorrow. Like if we had this person in a month or we had a formal proposal on it, I'm great with that. I just feel like, all of a sudden we got this in front of us. Here's another thing we got to jump on, and it's a hasty decision, and it has ramifications. Every decision has ramifications, and it's like, so I mean, I'm really not comfortable with it. Yes, Amanda.
Ms. LaChance.
Yeah, I mean, we have a hasty thing put on us tonight with we now have Holly Troxel
Ms. LaChance.
that have been called in. So that's also a hasty thing that was just, we had nothing to do with. Nobody even asked. So that's the kind of thing I'm trying to prevent, is money just flying out the door for political decisions by firms that in the past have not served us well.
Ms. LaChance.
So Rob, you have the right to abstain. You don't
Okay.
have to vote tonight. The vote will go on, and
Yeah.
there will be 3 members of the board voting. Your vote will basically, your non-vote will not count. So we do have enough members of the board to carry forward this vote.
Yeah, I'm abstaining on this one.
So there will be 3 members voting, and you.
Yeah, it's left field.
And for clarifying purposes, the vote has been casted. It is 2 for, 1 opposed, with 1 abstention by Trustee Clayton. And just for clarification, the only nay was for the same reasons that Rob had mentioned, that there's no set guideline, there's no set mannerism on how to move forward or approve. I feel it's a hasty decision at this point in time, and I feel that we should have a set proposal in front of us well ahead of the meeting rather than amending the agenda and approving it at the meeting. That's my reasoning for voting no at this point in time. So with that, the vote has been cast, 2 for, 1 against, with 1 abstention, and that brings us to the adjournment of the regular June meeting. I'll go ahead and call for a motion.
I'm sorry, say that again? I missed that part.
That brings us to the end of the agenda. So I'll go ahead and call for a motion to adjourn, not amend. I'll go ahead and call for a motion to adjourn the regular June meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting
Aye.
adjourned at 9:37. And, well, we still have everybody. Do I hear a motion to convene into closed executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74206F to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss the legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation or controversies not yet being litigated but imminently likely to be litigated, and Idaho Code 74206B to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent or public school student.
So moved.
I will second that.
Roll call vote. Trustee Bustos?
I would like to have a discussion of that, please. That's
Okay.
on the
Discussion?
So I'm not understanding why we're having this meeting, because it seems to me that we don't need legal representation. It was a simple request for information that was given to the superintendent. I'm not sure why it's gone this far, and I think that it needs to be in open session.
I apologize. I feel that we have had a lawsuit filed against us, and we need to confer with our attorney on how to proceed.
Well, I think it should be an open session, and so I would like to make that amendment and, and have it in open session.
We've had a motion to go forward into closed executive session with a second, so we're at the voting portion of it.
Okay.
So Trustee Bustos voted aye. Trustee Corker, your vote?
Nay.
Trustee Benyon, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-1, but according to Idaho Code, the open meeting law, it takes 4 out of 5 board members to vote aye to go into closed executive session. So at this point in time, we cannot go into closed executive session.
Okay, so we're still in open meeting.
We're adjourned.
There's nothing else on the agenda at this point in time.
Well, are we still in open meeting because we're talking?
No, we adjourned.
We haven't adjourned yet because we need a motion to adjourn the special meeting.
Oh, the special meeting. Oh, we're in the special meeting.
In order to further discuss that in open session, it would take an amendment to the agenda. One has not been made, and so I will go ahead.
Well, there was not an opportunity to make one.
Okay. Feel free.
Would you like to? Yeah, if you give me an opportunity to make one, I will make one.
Feel free.
I would like to amend this meeting to discuss the impending lawsuit in terms of the original reason that we have gotten into the lawsuit, not the specifics of the lawsuit itself, but the original request for documentation.
There's a motion on the table to amend the agenda. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Motion fails. Any further motions on the table? With that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Rob made the motion. Would you like to second, Trustee Corker?
Sure.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, I was supposed to, there's one other thing. I was supposed to give my reason for the amendment.
Okay. Feel free to give your reason.
Okay. So the reason, my reason for requesting that is because I wanted to know which trustees were in receipt of information regarding the demand letter communications between Adam King and the Breck Steininger in late April, and I wanted to know why I had not been informed of this, and I wanted to know why it hadn't simply been answered by the public information request hadn't been answered by the superintendent, so it could simply go away, and why we're in this position and having to spend more money on legal fees yet again.
Amanda has noted that, and that will be in the minutes. So with that, we have a motion to adjourn and a second. And To my recollection, we had 2, 3 voting for adjournment without your vote, Trustee Corker.
I'm sorry, my vote is for adjournment.
Okay. Motion carries to adjourn 4-0. Meeting adjourned at 9:42.